Let's go. Hi, we're Fiverr, a global marketplace connecting individuals and businesses with freelancers offering thousands of digital services. Graphic design, web development,
Land inside the metaverse has been absolutely exploding as of recently, even just last week recording over $100 million in metaverse land sales, which is absolutely insane. On the regular, we're seeing land in some of these certain metaverses sell for hundreds of thousands and in some cases millions of dollars in places like Axie Infinity, the Sandbox, and even Decentraland. I feel like this sector within the NFT market is going to absolutely just go parabolic here in the very near future. So in this video, I'm going to show you the top 10 metaverses that have land within them that I think have some tremendous opportunity. But before we do get into it, make sure to hit that subscribe and like button. It is greatly appreciated. And with that being said, welcome to the Niftyverse. Now, one more thing before we do get started with today's video, I do want to say that this is not financial advice. I am not a financial advisor. The crypto and NFT space is incredibly risky, so please do your own research and make your own decisions. And the first metaverse we'll be talking about here is Mirandus, which is developed by Gala Games. Mirandus is an epic fantasy RPG set in a massive world ruled by 5-player monsters. In-game, players have absolute freedom of choice. They can set out to the wilderness alone to try their fortunes against the monsters of the woods and dungeons. Join with one of the monarchs to serve as a knight in their court, or set up shop in one of the 5 great cities of the realm. Now, I am personally so excited for the world of Mirandus. I am really encores, but I got high and I'm now the land inside their metaverse is called Mirandus, and it is extremely every day. Young players and on the track and we not stopping music until we get paid. It's taking us slowly, but we on the come up and making a name while we keeping up. So that means that this metaverse we spreading the light and while lyrically fighting saving the day. Pleiadian man with an alien plan to enlighten the people in every way. So we taking this thing lower down like a fan and expelling the haters that stand in our way. You ain't with the shit, I know what to say. So you wasting my time thinking that I'm a face. These and types we come from outer space. You look like a disgrace to the alien race.
Music literally influences how people feel. The content of your lyrics induce thoughts and emotions within the listener. So would you rather inflate your ego and make others feel lesser, or spread positivity and make others feel better?
Forever, switching up flow like the weather. Remember, your soul is as light as a feather. Enter a realm of pleasure beyond measure. Together, we will raise energy centers. Summon my chakra and flow like a salsa. I conjure these balls that are flowing like water. I'm stronger than all of these monsters. I conquer my monster as out of a cross for alter mindset. When I am touched with divineness, rhyming with all these lyrics, the finest likeness of the ancient Osiris. Find us looking for answers inside us. Think that I might just slaughter the game with politeness. All of this knowledge is priceless. Most of these humans are sightless, so I'm reciting all this enticing enlightenment. We have arisen, we're following our intuition, translating the vision through rhythm. Each on a mission to raise a human conditions, fit with wisdom with the rhythm of the diction. Thinking, taking time, listening, mankind, mind us. Nobody learn how to open their mind's eye. Realign with the divine inside, inclined to find rhymes in this life at night. I am looking at moonlight to ignite the light. I am looking for insight, like the Bible. I'm archetypal, I'm a disciple of this life. life cycle. I'm a fucking archangel, call me Michael. Listen to the music I am making on a vinyl. I know why you're in denial of our rivals. You don't gotta do anything to ensure survival. Pleiades and high bands, moving on a high note. Meditate for planetary survival.
Towards the world of Treeverse. Now, similar to a lot of the other metaverses we're going to be talking about here in today's video, Treeverse is still in development, but they have conducted a land sale already. They have released 10,420 founders plots, which can be found on OpenSea at this time. They sold out in less than 1 hour. There was a very coveted release for the land plots inside this metaverse.
There's a lot of chaos on the planet right now. But us spiritual beings, man, we on the rise. Elevate, expand, getting that self-knowledge, if you know what I mean.
Which is a very well-known.
This is mindful expansion on the beat. High vibes, everybody, from the island of Hawaii. We on the rise, man.
So that is just the thing.
Third eye open wide, the revolution won't be televised. Indigos, we on the rise. Indigos.
I'm excited for the world of Treeverse. I know a lot of people enjoy the overall atmosphere and vibe.
Third eye open wide, the revolution won't be televised. Indigos, we on the rise.
Now, Episode is a free-to-play MMORPG taking place in a player-driven dystopia fantasy universe with a classic and fast-paced combat system. You will be able to create your character, pick a home nation, and venture into the mysterious world with your weapon of choice to prove your worth. Action-packed, classic combat system by defeating monsters, bosses, other players, or explore the world as a
living in heaven
forager
is my
of goods and
profession.
wares.
Mind in
I'm a
the
big fan
present,
of the
consciousness
aesthetic that
omnipresent. This is my essence. My life is
effervescent.
effervescence. I'm talking to you. Can you feel my presence? Nature got a message. Listen up, I'm taking attendance. Synchronicities and deja vu. The universe is speaking. What are you seeking? Let's get to the proceeding. My heart's beating, but I'm in a deep trance, dreaming, receiving and retrieving as my intuition is speaking. Self-realization of what we forgot. Finding keys to fit the lock. Yeah, baby, step over the box. It's okay to get a little lost.
So they mentioned right here the
Drift into the
land sale of
void.
Episode
Meditating,
takes place
map
in
my
Detroit.
mind like Sigmund Freud. Living
One of
from
the
my
four
heart,
nations in
so
Thanos.
I
The
feel
sale
light.
features 4 types of land,
Merkaba
plots,
activated, I'm
settlements,
taking
the total
flight.
land supply of Thanos is
Self-liberated,
160,000
Elohim
plots.
elevated.
Solar would
That's
be
right.
40,000.
Got that creative,
So each one of these
clairvoyant,
regions
calculated
is
foresight.
Cannabis, which is the Episode
Indigos understand they can't live in a cage.
If you are interested in
They've
the
tried
land that's
that.
already released,
Didn't
you can
work.
find it on
They didn't
OpenSea,
come
which
to
is
planet
the
Earth.
secondary market.
Just
Now, for
work
Eversword, there has
9
been
to
a lot of
5.
He on the rise, man.
land sale was in a very
Third eye
high
open
demand.
wide.
There was a ton
The
of money that was
revolution won't be televised. Indigos, we on the rise. Indigos.
And this game really does look fun. I'm really excited for the MMORPG type of games. that
Third
are
eye
coming
open
out.
wide. The
Because I think there's
revolution
just a
won't be
tremendous
televised.
opportunity in the
Indigos,
metaverse.
we on the rise.
You absolutely do. And who knows, Eversword could possibly be that game. And moving forward, now let's talk about the Sandbox. The Sandbox is a virtual metaverse where players can build, own, and monetize their virtual experiences. This is a voxelized metaverse which has a very similar look to what Minecraft looks like. All of the experiences and games are user-generated pieces of content, meaning that the players
I'm
within
in
these games
another
are building out
dimension
the
that I forget
experiences
to
and the
mention.
games as well.
What
The
you
Sandbox
see
is
is
one of the
only
most
your
highly
reflection,
anticipated
subject to
metaverses
your
that will be
perception.
released
Focus
here
on
in the
your
future.
connection
At
to
the time
get
of this
a better
recording, there is
sense of
actually a
direction.
public alpha
Don't
that is
forget
currently
to question
available
and
right now.
release all of
Players
that
are allowed
tension.
to play. The
Breathing
Sandbox
in
has
that
secured a
beautiful
ton of
prana
partnerships
in a
with
yoga
Deadmau5,
pose.
Dog,
Musical
and many other
nirvana,
brands as well.
empower
They have an
minds that
extremely
were
professional team
froze.
that has
It's
been
on
building out
infused
the metaverse for
medicine.
years.
That's just
Now,
how it
talk about
goes.
land within the
That's
Sandbox.
just
They
how
have
I
a total
flow.
of
Balance the
160,000
elements. Knowledge of self. This is relevant. Lyrical
Now, they have
elegance. The
conducted
truth is
majority of
evident.
land
Resident of
and now
earth.
find
I
out
claim my
where
body as my church. You
land.
are what you search.
But they
So
do periodically
eloquently
have
allow
land
yourself
sales
to
for each
emerge.
section within their metaverse. So make sure you are following them on Twitter and checking out their Discord for updates on future land sales. I think the Sandbox is going to be one of the leading metaverses here in the future. There is so much potential for this specific
High
game,
vibes
and I'm
times
extremely
44.
excited for it. If you want to
See,
learn more about
it's just
land
really
within this
about
metaverse,
being your true
make sure to
authentic
check out this
self
video
and
up above
tapping
because I have done a full guide on land within the sandbox. And now moving on, let's talk about the other leading metaverse, which is Decentraland. Decentraland is the closest thing to what an actual metaverse will look like here in the future. It's a 3D metaverse that has realistic avatars, which we can play different experiences and different games located within this metaverse. Similar to the sandbox, all of the experiences and games are user content generated, meaning that the players are hosting and creating these experiences within Decentraland. Decentraland is considered to be the OG of metaverses, being here for quite some time now and able to deliver some really amazing experiences within the game. Now, land within Decentraland is one of the most coveted pieces of land within the metaverse. There is a total of 90,601 plots of land within Decentraland, and we can see sales range from thousands to even hundreds of thousands and in some case millions of dollars for certain estates and large plots of land within this metaverse. There's a lot of promising things that are happening within Decentraland. There's a ton of different events that are taking place. I mean, recently we just had a Deadmau5 event, which was super fun, and I thought was a great thing for Decentraland, and there's a lot more things that are coming. Now, if you wanted to purchase land within this metaverse, what you can do is they have a marketplace on Decentraland's website, or you could also go on OpenSea to purchase some of the lands on the aftermarket. Now, all of the land has been released to the public, so there will not be any more land sales for Decentraland. Decentraland, similar to the sandbox, is one of the metaverses that I am most bullish about. I think Decentraland is in a great spot to be one of the leading metaverses here in the future because they have been building out for so long and it is so recognized by the NFT and Web3 community. It'll definitely be interesting to see how Decentraland continues to develop here in the future. Moving on, we have Star Atlas, which is looking to be an insane game, an insane metaverse that is building out on the Solana blockchain. Star Atlas is a next-gen space gaming metaverse that is being developed on the Unreal Engine 5. It is looking to be a AAA status game. This metaverse takes place in space and looks to build out a ton of different components to this game. It is extremely ambitious, but from what you can see, they are putting a ton of work behind this. Now, Star Atlas
is a free psychedelic available to anyone, anytime. What else would you call something that improves your mood, reduces anxiety and heart rate, lowers blood pressure and stress hormones, helps with depression, boosts memory, improves pain resilience and quality of life for dementia patients, and even restores lost speech? This is the exact definition of a psychoactive substance, and that's what music is. If you were to look at music from an alien perspective, it would be one of the most incredible elements of the human existence. If you didn't know what music was and you heard it for the first time, you would be blown away and you would immediately get addicted to it, like many of us, including me. Music has always had an important place in my life, but I got really serious about it when I was 10 and when I bought my first Technotronic cassette tape.
And I'm definitely going to keep my eye out for future land sales happening around this metaverse. And moving on, let's talk about Somnium Space, a metaverse specifically designed
Hola amigos, bienvenidos. Ya en varias ocasiones he hablado sobre elevar nuestra frecuencia vibratoria. Esto se utiliza mucho en el mundo de la espiritualidad y el crecimiento personal, y muchos aceptamos que es algo positivo, la usamos como sinónimo de avanzar, crecer y mejorar. Pero por muy habitual que sea esta expresión, pienso que es importante saber qué significa exactamente. ¿Por qué elevar nuestra frecuencia vibratoria es positivo? ¿Por qué es mejor tener una frecuencia alta que una frecuencia baja? ¿Y qué efectos o consecuencias tiene? Varias veces me han comentado, sí, está muy bien, pero ¿y eso cómo se logra? Bueno, este es un tema importante y profundo, y vale la pena hablar de él con cierto detalle para ayudarnos a entender mejor el mundo donde vivimos y a integrarnos mejor en él. Así que, en esta ocasión, les hablaré de qué significa subir nuestra frecuencia y cómo mantenerla alta. ¿Qué tiene que ver la frecuencia de vibración de las ondas con nosotros? Miren, todo lo que existe en el universo está en constante movimiento. Todo vibra, ya sea que hablemos de energía, lo que llamamos materia, incluso nuestros pensamientos. A un nivel muy profundo, somos ondas que se mueven a diferentes frecuencias de vibración. Nuestras emociones, pensamientos y sentimientos generan diferentes frecuencias. Por ejemplo, el miedo tiene una frecuencia baja y en cambio el amor tiene una frecuencia muy alta, y esto afecta en nuestro ADN, en nuestro programa o programas de ADN. La alegría y la felicidad son factores que influyen positivamente tanto en el aspecto fisiológico como psicológico, en nuestras relaciones interpersonales, en nuestro ambiente, el entorno, y todo cambia a nuestro favor cuando podemos mantener este tipo de actitud o emociones durante más tiempo. Esto que les platico está basado en este documento académico que les muestro en esta imagen, llamado Psicología de la Emoción, de la autoría de varios expertos en la materia. Los estudios científicos que se han hecho al respecto nos hablan de la importancia, tanto desde el punto de vista fisiológico y psicológico, que implica el ser una persona alegre. Primero, fisiológicamente, ¿cuáles son las funciones de la alegría? Lo que aquí se menciona es que se ha observado que las manifestaciones de alegría hilarante inducen cambios hormonales, concretamente durante los episodios de risa alegre, y se han constatado reducciones significativas en la concentración sérica de hormonas implicadas en las respuestas de situaciones de estrés, como el cortisol, la adrenalina, la cortisona, la hormona de crecimiento, etc. Y esto agiliza el reajuste homeostático del organismo tras afrontar una situación difícil, o sea que esta emoción atenúa la respuesta fisiológica al estrés. Asimismo, este tipo de expresión emotiva se asocia con una optimización de la respuesta inmune, al mismo tiempo específicamente con un aumento de la concentración de la inmunoglobulina A, que es uno de los principales anticuerpos del organismo en la sangre. Otros de los sistemas fisiológicos que son afectados por los episodios de risa hilarante son los sistemas respiratorio y musculoesquelético, con los movimientos sacádicos de baja amplitud y alta frecuencia que se obtienen en el momento de risa o carcajeo. También se es afectado el sistema cardiovascular al experimentar un ligero aumento de ritmo o frecuencia cardíaca, y esto induce a un aumento de la presión sanguínea, así como el volumen sanguíneo periférico. Otro aspecto sería la actividad electrodérmica, o sea, la conductancia eléctrica de la piel. Esto significa que se han observado notorias fluctuaciones en la actividad electrodérmica durante los episodios de hilaridad. En este caso, estos cambios electrodérmicos no son un simple fenómeno fisiológico, sino que están condicionados por la emoción de risa o alegría, aunque también lo producen algunas emociones negativas. Y sobre todo, algo muy importante, el sistema endocrino. El estudio de los efectos hormonales provocados en un estado de alegría nos dice que estas emociones pueden causar la secreción de endorfinas y catecolaminas. Ahora, ¿cómo nos afecta psicológicamente? El sentimiento de alegría reduce la ansiedad, el enfado y la disposición a la agresividad. Del mismo modo, este sentimiento disminuye el estado de impotencia al momento de resolver un determinado problema, facilitando la posibilidad de explorar nuevas alternativas de afrontamiento. Asimismo, la etología, que es el estudio científico del comportamiento humano y animal, nos dice que incluso una sonrisa falsa tiene sus beneficios. Cuando, por ejemplo, te encuentras en la calle y muestras una sonrisa para saludar, y no es porque te cause alegría realmente, es simplemente para saludar a alguien o por respeto. Por ejemplo, al vecino con el que no tienes ningún tipo de relación más cercana, se utiliza no solo para favorecer la interacción de carácter amistoso, sino también para, en ciertos casos, inhibir el comportamiento hostil de los demás hacia nosotros. En este libro se menciona que un estado de ánimo positivo favorece nuestra disposición para desarrollar conductas prosociales, es decir, para cooperar con los demás o prestarles ayuda cuando lo solicitan. Por eso, la alegría aumenta la disposición de la persona para responder de forma altruista, prosocial. La experiencia emocional subjetiva o sentimiento de alegría es experimentada por la persona como una vivencia placentera y de carácter reforzante. Y la persona que es consciente de este estado emocional se siente complacido, embargado por el júbilo, contento, en un estado de éxtasis de intensidad variable y con una disposición de ánimo eufórico que en su manifestación extrema no se halla exenta de cierta exaltación y vehemencia, y esto nos puede llevar a experimentar la felicidad. Este conjunto de experiencias subjetivas nos pueden llevar a lo que se denomina como autoactualización, que es el proceso de crecimiento y desarrollo personal, y también a la llamada ego-resiliencia, que es la capacidad de autocontrol, emocionalidad positiva, autonomía, optimismo aprendido o experiencia de flujo. Entre estas experiencias están las llamadas vivencias autotélicas o autogratificantes, como la implicación en actividades creativas como la música, el deporte, los juegos o incluso los rituales de índole religioso, porque las personas religiosas tengan las creencias que tengan, estas creencias o rituales que ellas practican a muchos les hacen felices, y aunque muchos no estamos de acuerdo con este tipo de rituales religiosos, ellos se sienten alegres de practicar estas actividades, aunque ustedes ya saben que yo estoy totalmente en contra de la religión porque simplemente lo considero como una pérdida de tiempo y un lavado de cerebro. Pero en estas personas religiosas ocurre un sentimiento de felicidad o alegría practicando estas costumbres. Y aquí hago una aclaración muy importante. Una cosa es elevar nuestra vibración con todos los beneficios que esto conlleva, y otra cosa es salir de la Matrix, ya que esto además implica necesariamente de conocimiento, un amplio criterio, un verdadero uso del libre albedrío y un cierto nivel de conciencia que un fanático religioso obviamente no tiene. Además, sí es verdad que muchos religiosos se sienten felices con sus creencias. Sabemos que existen los esclavos felices, los borregos adoctrinados felices, viviendo en su pequeño mundo de fantasía. Pero también es verdad que, por el contrario, muchos basan sus creencias en el sufrimiento. Creen que entre más sufren, más se acercan a Dios, cuando en realidad no tienen la menor idea de quién es Dios ni por qué el sufrir los acerca más a ese personaje. Nadie es feliz cuando sufre, aun cuando lo hagan voluntariamente. Y en estos casos, la consecuencia es que se generan frecuencias bajas totalmente negativas en todos los aspectos. Volviendo al tema, la cuestión es que toda persona que se haya altamente concentrada en la tarea que realiza, que le gusta, se siente extasiada y bajo una agradable sensación de bienestar subjetivo, y cuando esto ocurre con relativa frecuencia, conduce a un estado de felicidad. Ahora, debemos lograr mantenernos en un estado de máxima alegría todo el tiempo posible, porque esto hace que mantengamos altos los niveles de nuestras frecuencias. Es entonces cuando realmente mostramos que hemos cambiado positivamente. Tener una frecuencia alta repercute no solo en tu salud, sino también en tu entorno, en tu realidad. Incluso ante las tragedias, si caes en depresión o ansiedad, significa que no has conseguido superar, integrar o digerir los hechos ocurridos, y es entonces cuando te autodestruyes. Por eso, tenemos que aprender cómo manejar las emociones en casos negativos. En psicología a esto se le llama inteligencia emocional, o sea, aprender a manejar las emociones negativas y simplemente elegir ser felices, así de simple. Incluso esto se trata de la incondicionalidad, el amor y la felicidad sin ninguna condición. Y eso puede parecer cursi o tonto para muchos. O sea, ¿por qué tengo que sentirme feliz o alegre si no tengo motivos? Pero precisamente ese es el tema, ser feliz sin ninguna condición. Ese es el secreto. Así es como tendrás tu frecuencia alta, y esto va a repercutir primeramente en tu salud, en tu ADN, en los programas que tienes guardados, los que hayas heredado y los que hayas generado durante tu vida. Y luego, al vibrar alto continuamente, lo verás reflejado en tu entorno, en tu éxito, porque todo lo que hago sale bien y perfecto. En tu familia, amigos, relaciones interpersonales, porque ya no vives en conflicto. Este es otro aspecto muy importante, o sea, cuando usas la inteligencia emocional, significa primeramente que has aprendido a manejar los conflictos y después a no entrar en conflicto. Tú eliges esa experiencia incondicionalmente. Esto es lo que significa mantener la frecuencia alta. Incluso hay algo más. Esto tiene que ver con el envejecimiento y cómo está relacionado con la alegría y la felicidad. Cuando haces algo que te apasiona, se tiene la sensación de que el tiempo pasa más rápido, porque te sumerges en esa tarea que haces con placer y no te das cuenta del paso del tiempo. Esto se traduce en que solamente envejeces el tiempo que te parece que ha pasado y no lo que realmente ha pasado. Si han pasado 5 horas, pero a mí me parece que ha pasado solo 1 hora porque me he sumergido en mi tarea y esto hace que cambie la percepción del tiempo. Esto hace que envejezcamos solo el tiempo que percibimos, porque el tiempo no existe. Y este es un tema del que también les hablaré después, la no existencia del tiempo. El paso del tiempo solo es una ilusión, es solo nuestra interpretación de lo que es el salto cuántico, ya que saltamos infinitamente entre capas de realidades a una velocidad tan alta que no nos damos cuenta de estos saltos. Pero bueno, este es un tema algo complejo del que, como ya les mencioné, hablaré después. Ok, pero si por el contrario, si una situación difícil dura 1 hora y a mí me parece que dura muchas más horas, porque en las situaciones adversas parece que el tiempo no pasa. Sucede que has envejecido esa cantidad de tiempo percibido. Por eso, las personas que sufren envejecen más rápido. Se les nota en la cara, en el aspecto físico, porque para ellos el tiempo pasa de otra manera. En cambio, cuando tenemos una situación difícil, pero podemos manejar y modular nuestras emociones, y por lo tanto podemos trascender las cosas negativas, asimilándolas en nuestra vida e integrarlo, es entonces cuando realmente las hemos superado y no tenemos que seguir sufriendo con ello. Es por eso que vivir en el miedo, ansiedad y en la preocupación es algo totalmente negativo que también afecta a nuestro organismo, y así es como podemos debilitarnos y enfermar. Es por eso que las enfermedades son una respuesta a las emociones negativas. Nuestro organismo reacciona a nuestras emociones. El miedo es adaptativo, porque puede en determinadas situaciones salvarte la vida. Pero imagínate tener adrenalina y noradrenalina continuamente todo el día. Continuamente vivir con miedo. No es bueno. Destruyes el organismo. Esto ya sería patológico. Por eso debemos aprender a manejar las emociones, elegir libremente ser felices, elegir la alegría. No es complicado. Y como resultado cambia nuestro entorno, estado emocional y forma de ser a nuestro favor. Esto es lo que significa subir y mantener la frecuencia alta. Además está el amor, que es lo más importante, pero resulta que la mayoría, al escuchar esta palabra, inmediatamente se limitan y se imaginan que este sentimiento solo corresponde al amor entre pareja, el amor a los hijos, parientes o amigos. Sin embargo, este es un tema bastante largo y complejo, sobre todo si hablamos de amor incondicional. Y se ha constatado, se ha medido que el amor tiene una frecuencia muy alta, que a su vez tiene un efecto tal en el ADN que puede reactivar aquellos codones y tripletes presentes en los intrones, que son segmentos de ADN que no codifican. Y estas altas frecuencias pueden sacudir a nuestro ADN para que despierte y activar esos codones y tripletes que no están activos. El tan famoso y mal llamado ADN basura, que no hacen nada, que están ahí parados, pero que en realidad tienen una función importantísima en la elevación espiritual y de nuestra conciencia y de la verdadera evolución humana. Es por eso que la solución para mantener la frecuencia alta en todo momento es la alegría, la felicidad y el amor incondicional. Esto es Indigo Creations. Y como siempre les digo, gracias por visitar mi espacio y nos vemos en el siguiente video.
I don't know what you're allowed to share or
your
not.
imagination.
So feel comfortable
We are
telling me you
warrior
can't.
light beings,
Like,
the ghosts,
I'm just trying to
souls,
learn
sent
how
here to
much-
raise the consciousness up.
What I can say is
It's all love, everybody. Powered by fruits and veggies.
multiple times more than Quest 1.
Yeah, it feels that way.
We needed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll keep on improving, and we'll keep on showing new versions of that. So there are a lot of great experiences there, and it's been really cool to see the use cases there broaden out from games to social to now having things around fitness. Right.
There's
so
a
you
lot
have-
of fit. That caught my radar. That there was a lot more people paying for fitness apps in Quest than I had any clue of.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, well, think about it. I mean, you can, it's kind of like the Peloton model where, it's, but instead of having a bike or a treadmill, you just have your $300 headset. You can take it with you anywhere you want. You can do boxing or dancing or different kinds of cardio. it's pretty awesome. So I think that
there was this planet in the stars called Earth. Most of the people feel defeated since birth. And what's worse, homie, we have all been cursed. Even children dying from hunger and thirst. Listen, I'm on a mission to manifest all my visions. Premonition is a given, don't believe in superstitions. No more wishing, now I'm making it happen. With these words I be rapping. As the song cries, watch how I awake those who napping. That was practice, no more messing around. These somatics got me healing while I'm blessing the sound. Everything is vibration, so I float like a cloud. Now you see me, now you don't, man, I got lost in the crowd. But I don't woke up, I grabbed the mic and spoke up. And my intention is to soothe your pain, hope I don't choke up. Real talk, I've been rapping since Big Pimpin' was popping. Young boy filled with anger, many hits I was dropping. Now I'm a father and a husband, I done found some loving. We only eating plant-based, you know we be rubbing. Older while I can't help it, people still starving. Some sell their souls for money, it's one hell of a bargain. They got them feeling like they winning, but we all know they losing. They can't see beyond the moment, man, this shit is confusing. I be cruising through life with ambition, compassion and intelligence sums up my ammunition. I be twisting geometrical patterns made up of light. I say words that go beyond this dimension, it's out of sight. I am multidimensional, omnipresent with this, simultaneously living in every plane I exist. I don't mean to take this over your head with these words I have said. Once you learn to vibrate higher, then your soul will be fed. It's survival of the fittest, gotta eat these apples. Reading books like no tomorrow, I got lost in fractals. I feel stronger when I speak from the heart. Hey, I'm no longer feeling weak when we part ways. I'm a grown man now, got life depending on me. I'm very lethal in the mind when this pen is on me. I give thanks to Long Island for shaping my mind. Thank you to Florida for helping me see the divine. Look, I done moved a lot in every grade, I was the new kid. Trying to figure out my life, I never doubted you did. But it's cool, bro, we was cool, bro. Doing stupid things, never cared about school, yo. See, the universe done took me out quick. From New York to Florida, got me depressed, full of sick. I couldn't see the bigger picture, still wishing that I was richer.
This is now happening. People are pulling off on this highway, jumping into the woods to find a Pikachu. I would have lost, I'm pretty good at this game too, but I would have lost this bet, which was after that was such a smash hit through the phone, the fact that we're here 5 years later and there has not been another significant AR phone execution of that scale, surprising to me. What's your take on that?
Yeah, well, I think Pokemon Go is, it was interesting, and it's a real hit, and it is an interesting phenomenon, but I consider it to be more of a location-based game than an augmented reality game. The fact that that it shows that you kind of look at it through your camera, I think is somewhat incidental. I think the core mechanic is that you're going to a place. And so you could do that with augmented reality or not, but there certainly is going to be a whole class of experiences that are like that. But in terms of things that really kind of augment reality, I think you have filters, face filters, different effects like that, like what you see in Instagram and Snapchat. I think that's a real thing. That's I think is real augmented reality.
I agree.
And certainly, I think that there's going to be a lot more opportunity there once you get to these real-looking glasses that can put holograms in the world. So yeah, I mean, I would hope that by the middle of this decade, we can have something that's sort of like that fencing clip that I showed. Now, the other issue on that is you need haptics, right? So that way, when your sword hits the hologram sword, you get a sense of feeling from that. So that's a whole interesting other area of research, and I'm not sure exactly where that will be by the middle of this decade, but that's another thing that we're working on, because it's clearly an important part of the whole picture. Is you need to be able to, whether you're playing basketball or giving someone a high five or shaking their hand, you want to be able to get a sense of pressure back, and that I think is just going to be an important part of the whole thing too.
Mark, when you make a move like this to get the organization to this next place, I assume, because I think about when I do things, oftentimes it's more for my team internally than for the world. Like if they don't understand where I'm trying to take Vayner or my stuff, then I've got no shot. Was that a thought about this in a lot of ways of like, hey, I gotta make sure, because you're a massive company now, like is this like, I need to give everybody a North Star internally of like, look, no, this is what we're doing. It's not just refining the algo or a filter on Insta or something of that nature.
Yeah, I mean, you get this because I mean, you're running a company here, and it's like a lot of this is really just about making sure that our team knows what we're doing, right? I mean, running a company is about setting prioritization and principles for where you want to go. And I do think that it's the case that a lot of times the most effective way to communicate to the organization a level of commitment to something is to go say it externally, right? Because now people know that you're serious.
I agree.
So we've been talking about this internally for many years, right? I mean, we've been working on these VR devices for 7 years. We've just sort of steadily ramped up the investment to the point where now in 2021 we're investing $10 billion, more than $10 billion in this. So it's still not the biggest part of what we do, but it's very meaningful. I think that you'd be hard pressed to find any other organization that cares as much about this and is putting as much energy into building all these different parts of the future. And what I think you get for that is that Meta has become the premier place that if you care about these problems, you want to go work on them, right? So whether that's VR, we're building the best devices. AR, I think we're the furthest ahead in terms of actually building the consumer glass form factor and all the different research around that. You mentioned any of the other problems around that, whether it's haptics, or a lot of the software parts of this where people can interact. We're going to be the place where you can build all these different parts of the metaverse experience and then also weave them into Facebook and Instagram and WhatsApp. That's going to be pretty wild.
You said something that really caught my attention. Obviously, the far majority of people, almost everybody who's listening to this that runs a company is not going to be running a company of your scale. But what you said there was not only for your team, but did I hear the undertone there of the fact that you put out such a public commitment to this, you see as a recruiting vehicle to the best engineers in the game in this space?
Yeah, well look, I just think that when you plant a flag and say that you're going to go do something, you get haters and criticism,
of course.
But you also get the people who actually care about that thing and want to make it happen are attracted to the people who I think have the courage to go make this happen, even though it's really far off. So I think that all these things there are pros and cons to them, and there's a lot of complexity to manage. But I think that this is true no matter what size organization you're at, is that having the willingness to just go say, hey, here's what I want to go build, I think certainly creates this self-selection dynamic where when you say, here's who I am and what I want to go do, then you get people who want to share that. And what I've found in my career is that it's better to not be timid about that, right? And to not pretend that you're something that you're not. To try to appease critics. I think the more that you can just be honest to who you are and what you want to go do, I think you'll kind of get the right people to join your team. You'll get the right investors, you'll get the right partners, and I think that's kind of how you move forward.
Now I'm going crazy selfish. I reference you and the company a ton in my content over the last decade as my macro thesis. Understand where the attention is. It matters so much. And I often reference your M&A behavior. Can you just give me, because I want to know for myself, the insight on the Instagram deal, the WhatsApp deal? I'm going to leave Oculus off because that was like, I want to maybe come back to it in a little bit, given the macro metaverse combo, but specifically Instagram and WhatsApp, which I thought were really of the moment deals. I don't know if the corporation acknowledges the attempt towards Snapchat. It was well talked about. I don't know the truth or not truth to it. But again, when I heard it or when it was reported, I was like, there he is again. He's 100% right. He's on it again. TikTok must have been potentially a very different thing given the China-based and complications. I'll be very honest, every day when I saw Musical.ly way back, I'm like, Facebook's gonna make a play, Facebook's gonna make a play, right? Am I right that is a big tenor of how you guys have looked at the world? B, what's that about?
Yeah, so there are a lot of different these kind of core social interactions that people have in these apps that different apps have invented over time, and I'm proud that we've invented a bunch of them. going back to some of the core dynamics around.
See, when you have the purpose of a God, it'll get you. I want to see my people elevate and prosper. I want to see you heal your wounds with no fucking doctors.
For the youngsters, I'm starting to
yeah, so go within you, yeah. Ignore the miracles and blessings life will give you, yeah. Son, you did that. You done took back your power for an hour and it tastes good. Can you cook that? Never look back. I'm shining and blinding. I'm always rhyming. I became a ladder for your mind, so get the climbing. I'm wondering how this life will end since I was 10. But then I turned 11 and I found my way to heaven. Got more knowledge than a reverend, yet they call me demonic. They just don't understand my life purpose is cosmic. I done meditated like a Buddhist for 12 years. Been through all my darkness and came out with no fears, just tears of happiness. Cause I know what happens next. Humanity ascends and all this evil we finesse. Son, I feel this in my chest, feel the realness in my breath. Ever astral projected your body better than sex? What you know about that? What you know about rap? From the perspective of an indigo, I got it like that. See, this a trap and I done broke free. You down on both knees. You gotta find the strength to stand up. Your flow's weak. You were created for more than what you become. Open up your eyes, get started. Life isn't done. As you can see, I could keep going for days. Always persistent when you press on that play.
They created something that I think is really
special. There was this planet and the stars called Earth. Most of the people feel defeated since birth. And what's worse, homie, we have all been cursed. Even children dying from hunger and thirst. Listen, I'm on a mission to manifest all my visions. Premonition is a given, don't believe in superstitions. No more wishing, now I'm making it happen. With these words that I'm rapping, as the song cries, watch how I awake those who nap.
It's only for college kids.
Yeah, I mean, when we had that, through our IPO and after, when our, when we were having a lot of business struggles, but it's, I kind of looked at those and I was like, hey, I think that there's something that's important here. I think the world is probably underestimating this. And I also think that we have the skills as a company to go grow these things to reach more than 1 billion people around the world. And because we've done that with the core Facebook experience, and I think that there's two skills there. There's sort of the building the social experience, and then there's the helping to ramp up a network around that. And that I think is also a core competence. So, I don't know what would have happened with Instagram, if we hadn't bought it. I don't think it's guaranteed that it would have grown to be as big as it is.
Should I assume, because I'm a nerd when it comes to watching business behavior, that much like what you're doing with Metaverse now, which I think is the macro move of that, and that like in between now and that scaled world, the companies that have the kernels that do best in the attention graph, whether that's in the Metaverse, video, picture, like that will always be a core focus.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's a key thing with this rebrand Meta is, it's not like now we're not focused on social media. I mean, that's going to be the bread and butter of what we do. That's the core thing. In our work to build the Metaverse encompasses both building social experiences and building these future platforms like VR and AR. It's got to be both, right? We have to weave all these new technologies through these social apps. And, because you want to be able to jump into the Metaverse and 3D experience from your Instagram. Right, see your friend at a concert. We showed this as part of the keynote presentation. Dive in and maybe be a hologram at a concert. But a lot of the discovery around that has been happening through the core social platforms. So, yeah, that's going to continue to be a focus. We're going to keep on focusing on growing and building apps and adding more social mechanics around that. I think there's a lot more to invent there. And then I think that there's this next set of platforms, right, where, one of the things that I reflect on a lot is social media kind of grew up with smartphone. Facebook I started in 2004. I think Apple was probably already working on their iPhone design by then. It came out in 2007. So we didn't really get to shape what the smartphone was. We built a lot of the most used experiences for it. But it's sort of it grew the same time. And because of that, I feel like the smartphone sort of grew in a way that it's not limiting in terms of the type of social experiences that you can have. I feel like there's a lot of things that I would love to build that we can't build because we're kind of constrained into this, little rectangle and policies that some other companies set. So
don't wanna go, but I'm curious what heaven gon' bring. I hope my soul is remembered with no gender or genre, just a legend. I was sent here to help you do what you wanna.
Accelerating it, because I think the sooner we get to virtual and augmented reality, the better. The more magical these social experiences are going to be. And I just think
ask no questions, but do it just because you gon' really be feeling this. Found it in the wilderness, locked it in the studio, it hasn't left the building since. My mind is worth a billion cents, I got it on eBay. My mom bought it for me on my very first B-day, and each day I think about another way to repay everyone that helped me get a little bit of leeway. And I'm thinking, damn, I'm about to change the world with the fan, and that's forever a movement, so we can never stop moving. And just to sum up my story, it doesn't have a conclusion. They used to think I was losing, then I showed them the stats. Once I got some momentum, there was no holding me back. Yo, the flow on the track could have you drowning in the lyrics, and the blind can see how the deaf could hear it. What does distance mean when your heart is near it? Whole team with the cream, so we dream coherent. And your opinion is irrelevant. Too far intelligent to listen for the hell of it. This is my soul. I ain't selling it. Thanks for the help, but I can think for myself. And yeah, it's hard to keep a promise when your conscience isn't honest, so you constantly believing all the nonsense.
Mark, question I've been dying to ask you. When you first look, I mean, you probably given, maybe I'm making assumptions, so you'll speak to it. Obviously, there was that 2017 wave with CryptoKitties. We started seeing that early kind of wave of, you know, NFTs, right? That was like kind of like the thing that punks did not hit my radar, but CryptoKitties did in 17. And obviously now this has been the year of NFTs, the way we know them, whether it's Bored Ape, what I do with VFriends, obviously punks, and many Cool Cats, many projects. One of the reasons it was very easy for me when I really dug in late last year to believe in this was actually because of Farmville on Facebook. You know, when there was two things that happened to me during that era. Farmville on Facebook, oh my God, people are buying these digital sheep because they want the social currency to show their friends they're good at it. And then Zay Frank, I don't know if you remember Zay Frank, remember?
Less with Optimum's best holiday deal ever. For a limited time, get reliable, high-speed 300 meg internet for the low price of $29.99 a month. And as a treat, unwrap a $200 Visa prepaid card, 3 months of HBO Max included on us, and a free Wi-Fi extender. Plus, with Optimum flexibility, there are no contracts or hidden fees. But hurry, this deal ends soon. Get more for less at Optimum.com today. For new residential customers, after promo, HBO Max is $14.99 per month. 90 days with continuous service required for gift card. Taxes, fees, and additional terms apply.
Been a pretty big believer in virtual goods, so I think from that perspective, yeah. But I think a lot of the magic of NFTs and a lot of the Web3 work is that it's designed in a way to be fundamentally interoperable. So I think that that's going to be really important because it'll help break down these silos between different apps and make it so that all your stuff can be just you know, more portable between these different experiences, which I think increasingly is what people are going to expect. But so, and I think that that's going to be a big part for creators of making it really worth investing in, because you know.
Check it out now. Okay. I'm getting a little hype now, niggas. I can't front. Yo, check it out. It's your boy Cruz on the mic. I'm about to spit some real shit for y'all niggas. Y'all niggas gonna enjoy this shit. Yeah. On another level with this one. Hey, go C-R-E-W-Z. So many lies I've heard. For my truth seekers, come take a look through my eyes. Put on my truth sneakers. Now walk a mile takes a while to understand me. Be the best I can be. Ain't no standards with me. I'm in the air when I share all this knowledge that you cannot learn in college. So my mind is what I polished. I'm the man. I am God. I'm the sky with lightning rods. I deflower all you cowards to empower all you gods. Now take a look in the mirror. Why does your body shiver? Can you handle what you see? To me I see nobody realer. I grow iller as I travel through all my internal battles. Straight up arrow with it, I did it. I'm sharper than an arrow. Granted, I managed to stay enchanted on planets in space. I planted seeds throughout the galaxy. Now cruise is what you choose, and I don't lose what I created. Masters and demonstrators, straight up shitting on you devils. Music on another level, singing.
All working, no play, never made me lose it. No business all day. On that up the level. I'm on that up the level. I'm on that up the level. All working, no play, never made me lose it. No business all day. On that up the level. I'm on that up the
side when I put it down. You know these girls feel high when I come around. Guess they could notice a nigga that's focused, who's slow as the coldest. I've opened the lotus of life, my girl. You ignite my world. Chill with a guy for the night, my girl. I'm delivered to enhance the moment. Every single beat I take is mine, I own it, own it. To all you niggas who cannot see past all this money, y'all niggas is funny to me. Materiality is your mentality, so you cannot see I'm destined to be your guide, a spiritual guide, multi-dimensional goddess inside. I'm on the horizon, I am so high in the clouds. I swear that it feels like I'm gliding through the atmosphere. I have no fears. If I feel pain, I'll drop some tears. At least I ain't scared to admit it. Nah, a real nigga is always with it. Yeah, and when it is all said and done, I just wanna look back and say, damn it, I did it. I spit in my truth to you niggas and breaks to you haters, and now I just do this for fun. You rap about guns, I rap to empower every single human that's under the sun. Cause we all are one, and until the day that you can levitate off the ground, I'll be done, son. Now light up a split, yeah, for the earth beneath you tremble. I told you, when it comes to music, I come from that upper level singing.
All working, no play, never made me lose it. All business all day. On that upper level, upper level, upper level. I'm on that upper level, upper level, upper level. I'm on that upper level. All working, no play, never made me lose it. All business all day. On that upper level, upper level, upper level. I'm on that upper level, upper level, upper level. I'm on that upper level.
Goddamn, now how in the fuck can I possibly top that last verse? A question I like to ask myself, to see where myself can disperse. Now peep work, you niggas can't handle something I've been trying to dismantle. Most you niggas is lost, you think you some bosses. You chose your mind and your spirit, you lost it. But it is time, now is the time to be true to you and become the divine. This ain't some new age shit, this ain't no follow me cloak type shit. It is what I fuse, you listen to grooves and be in the light, I got nothing to prove to anyone, nobody but myself. And when it reflects, you will know thyself. I can't take it, I'm like the cosmos, living like through a body of flesh. Got so much respect from the actual cosmos. Now my goal is to help you connect to the force and the energy I always feel. The energy that got me keeping it real. I'm like the illest type when it comes to the truth I convey. Got so much to say, and I keep exploring and learning the way of life I play it. Not trying to take my wife, I doubt it. See, my girl knows a man is about it. No way around it, fool. My mind is a school, my spirit resembles the council of nine. I am so infinite with it, I push through my limits. I always be stuck in my prime singing.
All working, no play, never made me lose it. All business all day. On that upper level, upper level, upper level. I'm on that upper level, upper level, upper level. I'm on that upper level. All working, no play, never made me lose it. All business all day. On that upper level, upper level, upper level. I'm on that upper level, upper level, upper level. I'm on that upper level.
I think you're right. There is a clear through line, right? Both between the kind of social interactions that people have and the types of commerce. And obviously, there's more technology now that can make it more interoperable and that can give people more rights over the goods that they have. And on the AR and VR side, making it so people can feel a more realistic sense of connection. But I think you're right that a lot of these concepts are not fundamentally new. They're sort of the next iteration on kind of just dynamics that are evergreen and that are just always going to be and always have been very important to people in terms of how we connect and interact with each other.
It's my take on what happened when you were inventing. I'm like, oh.
You can have your prescriptions brought to your door with 1 to 2 day delivery from your local CVS.
To flex.
Or get same-day delivery. Or just swing by and pick them up on the way home from the doctor. Because that ear infection can't wait. While you're here, get your questions answered and put your mind at ease. Because there are still some things you just can't get in a cardboard box. That's healthier made easier from CVS. Not all prescriptions eligible for delivery. Restrictions apply. Visit cvs.com/delivery for details.
I agree.
Mark, since we only have a couple more minutes, have you thought? Do you own any NFTs?
This is the sound of someone opening the incredible Groupon experience you got this.
Wow!
This is the sound of someone not opening anything because you relied on shipping.
So much sense. It's kind of like leapfrogging. I understand.
Download the Groupon app for unforgettable experiences to gift this season. No shipping required.
Through the last 15 years makes all the sense to me in the world. How about you, the human being? Have you were you a collector? Were you a comic book? Did you collect as a kid?
I was pretty into baseball cards.
My man.
And that yeah. So that maybe a few comic books, but more for entertainment than collection.
Understood.
The baseball cards, I was really into that, especially. Baseball, I think, is really like the
sit and reflect, take a deep breath, don't be so afraid.
You're a nerd.
Live with respect. We all know the steps, so hot show it's next. And we manifest the goals that we set, so dream up the best. Can we pass the test? Of this life and progress? The answer is yes.
By the way, real quick, I'm
Spirit illumination via meditation, I turn into a god. Geometric patterns fusing with these atoms. Everybody's had it with these facades. They odd and unnatural, they're not factual. Spitting out these rhythm and wisdom is all actual fact. I just lack what I don't need. Attract what I want, go ahead and proceed with this fire and me on desire, and we can all come together and do as we please. Anything I want, I do it with ease. I keep it flowing, I turn into the breeze. Elevated like an elevator, I don't fuck with haters, I just penetrated through a portal. I'ma see you later, lose the dreaming. Got a homie scheming how I answer prayers, shifting parallel realities like I'm an animator.
Red in light cause we star-seeded, integrate the dark, no need to defeat it. Blending night with day cause we all seen a change in the heart of all human beings. My way is intelligence of my emotions, I raise my vibration, then begin floating. I hear the sentiments of those who've been hoping, start evacuating from how you've been closing. Forgive and make stronger the bond with all others. Let go of the weight and begin to hover. Smothered no longer by a sense of grief. Accept this new state and find eternal peace. All that we need is contained within. Focus on the start and not on the end. Sit down and breathe, fill with oxygen. Bring light to the dark and then we all win.
Animated matter, the sentience when I reminisce upon my genesis. Everything's effortless, I'm trying to sever this concept. Everyone has of separateness, I'm loving the barrenness. I'm co-evidence in like Mr. Hicks. Bitch shoot off, speaking the hermetic laws. Use smooth draws to be channeling the cause. Most are lost, thinking patterns in a box. Effect becomes cause when you detach for thoughts. Drinking water from a first sauce. Vision, everything is in focus. Dose with this passion and devotion. Going with the flow with this cosmic ocean. When I flow switch, everything happens in slow motion. When I'm out in public where my energetic Trojan coasting to corrosion. Cause I know that this is the path of becoming golden.
No need to say, either way, John, either way. No delay, keep away, got to eat the way. Meditate, light, she will stay. Upgrade DNA, atomically rearrange. No corny, no feet away. That'll be the day. Never hesitate to set it straight. We legislate, orchestrate the Torah shape. Open portal gates for my timelessness can't escape. Stomping out the whining like grapes. On a constant incline, elevate. Transform the diamond shape. I am awake like Buddha means. To get to me, gotta go through my team. Supreme, late crystalline, hot chocolate green, shoot laser beams.
Sit and reflect, take a deep breath, don't reason to fret. Live with respect, we all know the steps, the heart show it's next. And we manifest the goals that we set, so dream up the best. Can we pass the test of this life and progress? The answer is yes.
Mark, they're
going to be awesome.
They're not historians. Of course Web3 doesn't work as well as Web2 15 years later. Like shopping carts in 1996 took 3 minutes to buy something. People forget the cuckoo to even get on the internet. Like people forget and they're not historians, and I think that's where they can learn. Mark, thank you so much for your time. I know you're busy. I appreciate you being on the podcast.
Happy to do it. All right, catch you soon.
Yeah. I stepped out of the 12th house, hopped up in that red alert. I'm dipping to the milk for the cookie. When you invest in self, there's no need to work. Pounds on pounds of the sticky herb. Off the earth, I can feed the herd. Turn a flower into power, now a phoenix burn. Leave life where my ass at. Dark matter in my backpack, yeah. Crystallize 3 eyes. Every time I light fire to the earth. Calling the kush guys. Get blessed by a bush on fire. Help a sheep seek warmth in this cold empire. She drop bands when she bloom in the dark room. Hip house coming real soon. Aroma made me float like a cartoon. Mary got him hooked like a harpoon. And that's real. Watch me farm the land for my meals. So reap these bands for someone this kill. And grow this love to change how you feel. I'll show you the secrets and point to the enemy. They got the poison and I got the remedy. No stopping this energy. Move like a centipede. Why die? I'm too high off the memory. Expanding all of my chakras. When I fire up on this ganja plan, no need for scripts or a doctor. My homeboy's a spirit test. Watch you power up on that fire aqua. Blue cook all of my eye drops. That straight bliss, that proven aqua. Nigga, you till my iPod. I got marijuana, pounds of that real OG. See, we ain't nothing but some fugitives riding around like fuck the police. Making time stop for your 5 by 9s. I got 9 guys with their eyes out. Fire all in my spine, them boys get burnt. Try and get up in my
love you back, Mom.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone thinks that they already know you and think they can just talk to you whenever they want.
They can. I'm like, I love you back. I think social came along, the internet evolution came along at a very good, life is so.
Guys with their eyes out, fire all in my spine, them boys get burnt, try and get up in my house, I got marijuana.
I love you back, Mom.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone thinks that they already know you and think.
What are NFTs? And are they really going to change the world? You know what? I think so. I think they're going to transform global business models forever. And that's why Real Vision is bringing you the best and brightest minds in the entire NFT space to explore how they're actually going to change the game. This 5-day video crash.
What up and welcome back to Crypto Wise. That is right, guys. Today I have the most exciting episode that I have ever recorded for this channel. The most exciting episode on NFTs that I've ever recorded. I have the 3 biggest NFT projects that I believe are going to absolutely smash, go parabolic, and explode the NFT universe. And they have all been saved for the end of the 2021 year. Okay, this is no joke. This is serious business. If you're into NFTs, if you want to get into NFTs, you want to watch this entire video. I'm talking about the 3 biggest projects that I believe will have the biggest return ever in the NFT space since the punks, since the apes. These are by far the 3 biggest projects of the year, and I'm talking about them all today, both on Ethereum and on Solana. So you're gonna want to watch this entire episode, okay? If you haven't already, please do us a huge favor and smash the like button and subscribe to the channel and click on that little bell. That bell's going to give you real-time alerts when we drop new videos or when we go live. And of course, follow us on Twitter.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cosm Podcast. I'm your host, Tyler James Berger. This episode is the first of the Art Theology series, where we explore subjects of art, spirit, and consciousness with Alex Gray. In this interview, we discuss angels. How do they appear in the visionary mystical experience, and how have they been represented in different religious traditions throughout the world? We explore all that and more in this episode, so without any further ado, please welcome Alex Gray. So, Alex, throughout history, many religious traditions have represented messenger beings in their mythologies that we in the West refer to as angels. This type of being is not only reserved to fantasies and stories. Research into psychedelic substances show us that experiences of supernatural entities that exist somewhere between divinity and humanity is a very real experience that many have had. So, what is your definition of angel, and how have you experienced them in your own life?
Well, I used to be very cynical about the subject, actually, before I encountered some, you know. And
this I think is a really interesting territory where creative people, that's really everybody, but I've heard a lot of painters and musicians and things like that talk about receiving something from what they felt to be a higher, wiser presence that sometimes in the psychedelic states I have seen beings, like my first ayahuasca journey, 2001, out in the jungle outside of Manaus, and a being that whose head was probably about this large, I don't know, 18 inches or so, and it came before me in my psychedelic, state, and I could see it had humanoid features, or I was giving it, if this is some kind of plasmic interactive mind substance that you're working with. Who knows what the imagination is, really, but it felt like there was a being that, I was not expecting to come, and there it was, suddenly like looking in a window, that you were right next to the window in a cafe or something, and somebody comes right up to the window to look at you, to know that, are you seeing me? Because I'm seeing you. Are you seeing me? And until I could really acknowledge its presence and, say thank you, and like it's amazing to see you, and thank you for this vision, it had like jewel-like that were slowly kind of drifting over its face. Jewel-like forms, there were geometries and things of all different kind of world cultures that would weave down through it. It maintained a kind of presence there, but other like tattoos of a variety of cultures and surfaces would pass over its face. And so, and then it departed after it, and it was very benign, positive, and seemed to just want to reassure me that the beings are there, and they are, as we intelligently interact with and pay respect to their presence and to their possibilities for helping us to both align with this higher power that they're the servants of and messengers of. And because I think that they're very important in the spiritual path and process. And they kind of are probably accompanying us like spiritual parents along our life journey. Sometimes they help get us out of trouble. Sometimes you may, like only attribute, oh my God, I just nearly died, but something saved me and pulled me back. I don't know what, So we may be unconscious of their interactions with us. It may be multiple strings, but we feel like if they're serving a higher power, then they tilt us toward a more moral or ethical relationship with the social web and with ourselves, to treat ourselves better and to treat others better, and to be generous in those ways, because they come from an energy of abundance, the endless, infinite creative energy, that they're the representatives, the beings that are able to empower us with they're a vessel of this, and the more vessel-like we become, and like we become emissaries like they are to this higher power. And so there's a theurgy. They call this relationship with angelic beings theurgy, and so prayer can address them, and you can summon them in some ways. There are other kind of classes and different strata of beings, from those who have just departed, the souls of the departed. We may hear word from our parents, who might have passed on. I've heard from my parents, and at different times, that they keep an eye on us. They're sometimes known to greet us at our own death. So there's a spiritual world and spiritual bodies that perhaps the past or departed souls reside in for a while. They might link back up with those that were near and dear to them, and find and have some kind of reckoning or some kind of reconciliation, and be able to move on and move through things that they couldn't work out in the material world and things. And so, and then they also, depending on who they are, they might get a job. That they might, God might need Sector 8, to be covered with a certain kind of intelligence, that karmically you've bound many lifetimes of intelligence into your spiritual body, which is accessible as an angelic or departed soul. So then you can become part of and work with the angelic forces that may need some folks in the foxholes. You're not going to die again. You're a spiritual force that's there to help.
Yeah.
And then I think there's ascending levels of those kinds of beings. But there are beings that like Padmasambhava, are spiritual teachers that are accessible. If you say the right mantras and things like that, then you invoke them and have and carry on a relationship with them and receive teachings or words of wisdom and guidance from it.
So angels are kind of like these spiritual puppeteers that can kind of exert, maybe pull some strings onto this realm.
I maybe, like you were saying, like being able to pull our foot back from traffic that we didn't see or something. In that way, maybe so, or organizing the coincidences to, kind of converge in some breakthrough insight that we have, or things like this. In that way, they remain in the backgrounds and pretty undetectable in a way. And whether they're there or not, if you start talking about that kind of subject, maybe it's okay on the Cosm podcast, but you better watch who you talk to about these kinds of things too, because they're still regarded as symptom of madness. If you start talking about, I heard voices and they were telling me this and that, and so and not all the voices are nice either. So when we hear voices that not only are there angels, but there's probably more like demonic spirits that we associate with that realm as well, that we might leave ourselves open to, and we might, go into realms of despair and hell realms and things like that because of this kind of constant drone of a very negative kind of thought pattern as well, which could be, you could liken it to a demonic presence, whether it really is or not, because it's acting like one, a negative thought pattern that you've generated yourself, So you can give power to it by continuing it and things. So, but by observing it, maybe even making a drawing of it, or transforming it in some way.
Yeah, now many artistic representations, at least in the West, of angels include, maybe in their most cartoonish distillations, include three main features, and that is the halo, wings, and luminosity. They're often made of light. Can you explain a little bit the symbolic significance behind these three features?
I think that's a great subject, Tyler, because it really ties into visionary art, I think, because that's at least two of the subjects of visionary art, which would be the light body, the halo, or the luminosity of the being is the sense that we're all light beings. And certainly when a being has dropped the body, a spiritual essence has dropped the body, they are the light. And they have a subtle body, a spiritual body. It's still a form, but it's more of a plasmic light form, an astral light form, an etheric light form. So these levels of luminosity, like the atmosphere around the Earth, have a presence and have a texture and have a way to hold the substance, the spiritual substance of the identity of this being. And so this the luminosity or the light body is certainly one of the subjects. The other subject is the subject of the Therian morph, the animal-human hybrid kind of thing. So if we see the angel with bird's wings, then we associate it with a higher world. It raises up. It transcends. It's a vertical or rising being. So heaven has always been heaven, up high and in the sky, in the spiritual sky, in the sun, the light. So all of those things in the upraised kind of world symbolically would lead one to this sense of the flight of the soul, and that is symbolized by the bird. And so the bird is the closest thing besides the butterfly, that we have to that. But both have wings and both have these. So the kinds of wings and things that we see also in the depictions of angels in the West and in the East have rainbow presences as well. So like the luminosity, the light body thing, you see oftentimes the rainbow feathers and things like that, like peacock kind of.
Yeah. Can you speak a little bit more about how this kind of being is represented in other religious mythologies?
I think that the Dakinis and the Devas in the Tibetan Buddhist religion or practices, they work with classes of beings, and they have a very elaborate hierarchy of Dakinis and Devas and spiritual beings that are all kind of forming like layers of spiritual ecology, woven webs around. They see the like a lot of the shamanic systems. There are plant spirits that are related to certain plants. There are animal spirits. There are spirits of place, the woods and things like that. There's particular characters of areas of water and things like that. That there will be a spirit that inhabits that area of the land and things like that.
In Shintoism, you see that a lot.
Exactly. So that sometimes when you come upon a home or a house or a property or even a rock, it can have whoa, what went on here, man? There's a lot of either a beautiful view or just something extraordinary about the placement of elements, in Shintoism or Taoist kind of art. You see the kind of relationships of the land that have this special character. And so the characters of places often become symbolized in spirits.
Personified.
Exact.
Your work can feel much smoother with Monday.com WorkOS. This smooth. All you need to do to get started is choose one of our templates.
Marijuana, pounds to that real OG. We ain't nothing but some fugitives, riding around like fuck the police. Making time stop through your 5 by 9s. I got 9 guys with their eyes out. Fire all in my spine, them boys get burnt trying to get up in my house. I got marijuana, pounds to that real OG. Yeah, I've been off on that psilocin, now I'm about to turn up in OT. We ain't nothing but some fugitives, riding around like fuck the police. Making time stop through your 5 by 9s. I got 9 guys with their eyes out. Fire all in my spine, them boys get burnt trying to get up in my house. Shit, grab the pack and let's grind out. Mother Earth, she like right on time. I got H2O for that pie. That 302 for my fight. So when it rainstorm, I get to brainstorm and I'm back inside of that eye. You can hear, see just how I resonate, nigga. I'm shining off for your blinds. Nigga, light bender, I rip the veil. My angle is forming an L. Inertia will gather, bring physical form. So what I imagine is born right through the door. Infinite weaponry soon as they stepped in me. I know that they tested me, came down with their eyes out. I told you that water would burn. I gather my forces in orbit and pour out a portion of me to return. Then gather it back up inside of myself. I'm still on top of that crown. I can still get up when I'm down. Now watch how I gather the earth, bitch. I got marijuana, pounds of that real OG. See, we ain't nothing but some fugitives, riding around like fuck the police. Making time stop through your 5 by 9s. I got 9 guys with their eyes out. Fire all in my spine, them boys get burned trying to get up in my house. I got marijuana, pounds of that real OG. We ain't nothing but some fugitives, riding around like fuck the police. Making time stop through your 5 by 9s. I got 9 guys with their eyes out. Fire all in my spine, them boys get burned trying to get up in my house.
I really appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Hey, this is wild. I have to tell you, I'm pretty excited about this. I really appreciate you making time for this.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that. I'm flattered. I'm really excited to be on it, honestly.
Yeah, I've noticed you're making quite the deep dive into the whole NFT art scene the last couple of days. I've seen you all over the place. I saw Crypto Campfire.
Pardon me, but I think we got a problem here, honestly. And I ain't talking about fixing the economy, but it'd be kind of you to be kind to me, cause I kinda see a world full of hate. Never walked in my shoes, never ate off my plate. So wait, how you gonna discriminate without you knowing my fate? Everybody on the same boat. Not everybody get the same vote. You could be blessed with the best and be right back broke, quicker than Usain Bolt. Growing up thinking it's a joke. When life hit, I was unprepared. Young and scared and still unaware what I'm doing here. Please tell me what I'm doing here. Jobless with a new career. No fear to a broken mirror. My reflection is so sincere. Not religious, but my vision is so unclear. Just hoping my sins get cleared and forgiven for the way that I'm living. I'm never gonna give in. Just give them the same respect that I've been given. The true what they say, then my soul should be saved.
This, that, and the other thing.
Can the devil really come and take us home?
Since probably the summer.
I don't wanna know.
On NFTs. The reason I bought Ethereum in 2016 after Aaron Battalion, big shout out to Aaron Battalion, CTO of Lemon Social educating me on it at South by Southwest, was basically the understanding of the potential of what became NFTs. Like I was like, oh, okay, this isn't
the truth hurts, I know it. I live it, I claim it, I own it. They want it, they like it, they clone it. I see it, I hate it, I'm stuck in a coma. I'm feeling the urge to make sure the whole world is feeling my words. Understand no one is perfect, but everyone's perfect. The day that they came on this earth, so I'm thinking like, what could it honestly be? The arrogance, ignorance, the hatred and greed are the fact that they don't want to see us succeed. While they get what they want and we want what we need. But really, we want to be free. I don't want to be you, I just want to be me. I don't want to be you, I just want to be me. Cause how do you not see what the problem is? Nowadays everyone's following, no one is putting their knowledge in. Just now acknowledging that all the bullshit we're swallowing. God is living like it's Halloween, but I ain't wearing this mask no more. Ain't gon' ask no more. Every day's a new chance to grow. Would I change my past? The answer's no.
Really feel comfortable the way I do about social media or wine or sports cards, but I don't feel like I'll be embarrassed. I feel like I understand my point of view on what the consumers are going to do with it. I feel like I can speak to ERC20 and ERC721, and I can speak to crypto understand what rapping is now. Like, you know, like I can hang enough where I'm not wasting people's time, because what I'm great at, according to my mother, but in all seriousness, what I'm very comfortable with is consumer behavior. I mean, what I can say today, for example, I can say the following sentence to an audience. You know, I'm picking very specific places I want to be on. Podcast. I don't have a lot of time. You know, DK, I do this show because of the people, the people that I anticipate listening to this show, which is a very authentic, OG, thoughtful, bright, kind community.
I'm Serena Williams. You watch me live on TV.
And I'm the girl from that alien movie you watch on demand. Our worlds have been brought together thanks to DirecTV Stream.
Why are you whispering?
Because the alien will hear us.
Maybe let the alien know you can get DirecTV Stream with no annual contract.
He seems pretty excited by that, actually.
Introducing DirecTV Stream, the best of live TV and on demand with no annual contract. Get your TV together at DirecTV.com.
Requires high-speed internet and compatible device. Content varies by package and location. Restrictions apply.
NFT over the next 12 months.
We are all one people, but we live as if divided.
We're all connected. Everything is connected.
That's right.
Back in the day, I knew our culture would never die, even when they killed our bodies, brainwashed our minds. We still rise in spirit and spit these rhymes. Stay sharp and start crease lines. Be wise in the belly of the beast. Slave of Babylon, we traveled on a path that the masses all seldom on. We held on strong as the darkness fell upon our sun. Sages of ancient ages spoke of a flower one. Now it's on. Time to activate the hands of fate, emancipate our soul, watch it glow with an act of faith that'll crash the gates of this matrix and its hatred from Mother Earth. She hurts. Look how they raped it. All that is sacred's mostly eradicated. Still, we will make it. This I know. An ideal will grow while people come and go. Plus, we're more than just this flesh and bone.
The sixth pool of energy is the light chakra, located in the center of the forehead. It deals with insight and is blocked by illusions.
All my seven circles simultaneously spinning, deconstructing my molecular back to the beginning. We are luminous beings, we are the children of light, illuminating our circumference with the proper insight. Atoms get broken down in this final hour as we're circling the source just like a 4-petal flower. The evening morning star always guiding my direction as I'm making my way back to the place of my creation. My transformation is part termination, also part initiation into this new creation. Galactic understanding, universal consciousness. Return to the awareness that God is the goddess.
The greatest illusion of this world is the illusion of separation. Things you think are separate and different are actually one and the same.
Our spirit connects with earth, the elements. Sun and moon, use your natural intelligence to feel elevations of galactic vibrations. We're all
different group entirely. You now have this mix. Like I collect art. I never really collected art before in my life.
Yeah.
But now I collect it regularly.
Do you transact on art, Derek?
I do. Yes.
Yeah.
I create art. I sell secondary.
Do you buy art and resell it at times if you just decide to?
Yes.
The reason I ask that is that's probably going to be the most interesting thing in the super short term for me, which is what is the OG community going to think about what I know is coming, which is an enormous amount of collector, flipper, trader at heart people who are going to get much more enjoyment of buying a piece of art and reselling it than doing that with a stock, than doing that with a currency. Like, for example, I have the same feeling. Like, for example, the art I have behind me, Elise Bartlett, former employee, I support art from a friend standpoint. Number one. Number two,
personal networking is key.
It's just I'm giving you, like, I am a baseball card, comic book, collectible toy flipper at heart. I love it. I love buying a blue snaggletooth that came from the Sears Cantina set, because that's the rare snaggletooth versus the red suit, and buying that at a garage sale for $4 and selling it on eBay for $200, or buying it for $100 and selling it for $200 later because I thought it was a downtime for Star Wars early. I enjoy that. I don't like stock market. I don't enjoy buying a stock and then reselling it. No enjoyment. I love flea market, garage sales, sports cards, culture.
Well, let me encourage you then to look into where that really happens, because of course you can go to the Nifty Gateway. You can go. I do have work on Known Origin, for example. However, I didn't start on Known Origin, of course, right? I started on Rarible.
I know Rarible.
I started
very well.
on OpenSea, right? And that's where you can get that garage sale type.
100%. I'm on those.
Where you find that gem, right?
I super rare, OpenSea, Rarible, like Bitsky. I'm watching everything. I'm watching everything, and right now, I'm just very fascinated because I think there's a huge amount of humans on Earth that share my DNA that nobody talks about, which is the following. That trading component is much more fun in NFTs than it is in real estate or Wall Street. Number two, and this is where it gets really interesting for me, this is a real thing that I've been doing my whole life.
You got to tokenize those.
Are you kidding me? It's like the thing that keeps me up at night. I'm like, oh my God. In grammar school, kindergarten, first grade, third grade, sixth grade, a lot of kids knew me as a doodler, there was people who thought I was going to be an artist, which never gets talked about in my narrative, not something I share, and you have to watch my vlogs very carefully and you'll see that I'm doodling a lot in meetings, right? So when this all hit my radar, you know, that was something that really got me emotional. I'm like, oh my God, is this gonna be like, wow, God, literally, this is something I said, God, thank you. This is literally something I said to myself 6 months ago. God, are you kidding me? Have you created a technology that takes everything that I am, how to build a community, you know, understanding storytelling, the doodling component, the garage sale flipping, the garbage pail kit, like, this is crazy. This is like my life's work. So I've been very cautious and thoughtful of my entry into this world because I don't want to, I know I have a big platform now. Yep. I'm not who I was the first couple times, you know? I definitely am worried to drive the market.
Right.
I'm incredibly scared of that, Darren. I'm scared to talk about.
You're scared of creating a bubble? Is that what you mean?
You know, it's funny. I'm actually not, because I think I'm only going to buy and talk about things that I've decided are 30-year projects.
Okay.
So I'm actually not scared because I think I'm good. It's what happened in sports cards. In the sports cards world, I've been uncomfortably right. And it's because I'm really darn good at this. And so I'm talking about NFT as a genre. I'm not really talking about projects because I just have more homework to do. I've alluded to, so I'll do it here as well. I have decided that CryptoPunks is a 30-year project. And there's been a million articles, and this audience doesn't need me to explain why. So I won't spend time on that. But no, I'm worried about being perceived as pumping and dumping, as creating. And so I gotta really be thoughtful of how I'm gonna navigate. But I'm not actually scared about the bubble. I am probably scared about the macro bubble. Like when the inevitable shit hits the fan with all these projects, I do think everything gets dragged down with it. So I am scared to tell friends to invest in things, or because even though I think Punks is a steal, do I think if in 9 months or 13 months or 16 months, there's that crater moment because there's just too much supply and there's not sustainability of the secondary demand, could it go down with it? I do. Do I think that's probably when I'll go most buying crazy? To me, it's April 2000, Darren. April 2000 is when the stock market collapsed, internet stocks, and everybody bailed on the internet itself. And that's when I tripled down on the internet and said, no, the stocks might have been overvalued, but the whole genre is going nowhere.
Yeah.
And that was when I bought my Amazon stock for the first time, because I was like, and so like, that's what I'll do with NFTs. When and if, because just because I think it might, it may not. But if it does have that moment, that's probably when I'll go shopping the most on the things that I've deemed most meaningful. But there's so much, I mean, different blockchains and, right? Ethereum, Flow, there's so much going on there. There'll be many more. does Ethereum scale? Wrapping things, burning things. Like there's a lot to think through. This is early days.
Yeah, absolutely. What are your thoughts on trash art? Have you looked at that at all?
Not deeply yet. I'm still in the phase where, because I decided punks was real, that I spend an ungodly amount of time educating myself there.
Yep.
And I'm continuously spending most of my time doing stuff like this, whether in private or public. I want to become friends with the people in the community. I want to offer my value to them. I want to meet them, and I'm still learning. So I haven't gone, I've done very surface level stuff with like hash masks, kitties I've looked at a little bit for my own education, because that was obviously, like many, the first thing. I've looked at Top Shot carefully. I've looked at a lot of the whack stuff because I like Street Fighter and Garbage Pail Kids. I've looked at, I've done my homework on people, so I've done a little on the individual artist front, artifacts, some, bits projects. I've looked at stuff. I've done my random, 3-hour deep dives into OpenSea and Nifty just to poke around and get there. But I haven't yet on Travis. I'm excited.
Probably one of the best places to look for that is the artist that I interviewed for that piece that I wrote about it, called Immutable Trash.
If you can send me that link after this,
I will.
I'll read it over the weekend.
Yeah, for sure. His name is Rob Ness. He's probably the best known trash artist, along with Max Osiris. And of course, following that, there's a huge movement of more artists that join in with that. And I actually sent you the link to it in your Twitter if you want to peek at it. But it's a bit of a read to do during a conversation, obviously.
Yeah, I'm not going to do that here. I want to focus on this.
Be practical. But those two stand out. Another great place to go if you want to find out more about just that entire movement and community building is the Art Gallery Auction House on Telegram, Dan Pan. I think Crypto Campfire mentioned them too, actually. That was actually where I found a home when I began this as an artist, because I'm coming from a different world. I'm a teacher. I teach full time. I began writing because I just love writing.
Mm-hmm.
And from that, when I saw the crypto art, I was just felt like what you were saying, where it's like all these different things I love just came together into this one thing that I can't stop thinking about. I'm obsessed with it,
I'm obsessed with esports. I'm obsessed with the cannabis industry. I grew up in the wine business. I don't smoke, but I'm fascinated. I'm obsessed with many micro things. Things have happened, so many things have happened, but I have not felt anything like this since 2005. When I was like, oh, the internet's about to make a big change. This social media thing, this is a real thing. This isn't
like third wave here.
Yeah, that's right. I feel like for me, it's 95, 05. I'm kind of mad that it's not 2015 because then there'd be a nice round numbers. But it's 05, 9, it's 95, 05.
It's probably some Fibonacci thing or something.
Yeah, probably. God damn, it's exciting. And the fact that I get to bleed in my collecting, flipping, pop culture, IP, retro. Oh fuck, it's just so exciting.
Yeah, but it goes beyond that, right? People get excited about the money, right? And of course the money's great. The fact that a person
to me it's not the money, it's the being right.
I love being right.
I love being right. No, but really, it's and by the way, I don't want to be right so I can tell people I'm right. It's like a weird game with myself.
It's a game. I'm winning the game when I do that.
Am I right? Is this kid?
It's true. And I love it when people are like, nah, and then 2 years later, it's like,
That's everything to me. You may know this because you have a little context for me. It's why I love documenting. I love, when someone's like, oh, Gary, you're a fly by night, and I can show him my point of view on virtual goods in 2010. I don't know if you saw that clip.
I don't know if you evolve fly by night at this point anymore.
Yeah, but you know what? When not fly by night, you know what? People are like, oh, you're just jumping on this.
Right.
You don't care about NFTs. Yeah, and I'm like, look at this video in 2010 when I'm talking about virtual currency and virtual goods. This has been on my mind in some shape or form for a very, very long time. It's just prime time now.
It's a culmination of a number of different elements coming together,
Yes.
Coalescing. Absolutely. Yes. But with that, what I was saying was the money's great. It's amazing. I was talking to someone just the other day who I forget which country he lives in. It was a developing country. And he says to me, this art that I sold, I'm paying my kids' school fees with it. This is life-changing.
Game changer.
for a lot of people.
I know somebody who sold a hash mask in India to a big collector. That is like more money than his parents have made in 5 years.
Okay, yeah, next level, yeah. You know, the opportunities are huge. But beyond that too, it's this community. And that's maybe a little harder to see with, you know, the hash masks and the crypto punks. But when you get down into the dirt of it, as I have as an artist, starting at like someone, I just sold my first piece the other day and it was terrible. I just took a Bitcoin logo and I put it into an app called PhotoMosh and it melted it and made it look like a fried egg. And I called it Fried Bitcoin, right? And a guy was like, hey, is that your first piece? I want that, right? And it's a great feeling, right?
It's an intense feeling. For me, what's been interesting about this is thinking through the metadata. So my project is going to be very, very interesting.
Okay.
And I don't want to give too much away, but I want to give you a little something for our history to look back at one day.
Very interesting. And
all of my time,
I'm assuming in your case, you've got people facilitating this process.
When you say facilitating?
What I mean is getting everything set up, getting everything tokenized, getting,
yes,
if you're going beyond that, if you're doing something with smart contracts. Facilitating, I am going to draw all 5,555. Right. Oh, that's a good point to make. It's not like some of these people who've jumped in with higher. Contract properly. Yes, I'm speaking to a lot of people in the community and trying to figure out who the right things are. So now you said
anyway,
5,500 pictures. Is that what you said?
Yeah, I'm already giving too much, so we'll talk about it. We'll edit that out.
Seriously, you do? Should I?
No, it's okay. You can keep it. But I want you to have the scoop. But like, don't play it up too much. Hopefully, it's just an Easter egg in a long.
It'll be in the tweet.
Yeah.
5,500.
But you know, it's. I'm really excited. I'm excited. I feel like I know when I find my home. I know when I'm the sports car community, my home. The wine community, my home. The entrepreneurial community, a home. This is going to be a home, and a home that is going to show a different side of me from a creativity standpoint that has always been there. I've spoken so much about the creativity of being an actual entrepreneur, but this one's really going to be obvious, and I'm going to enjoy it, and it's going to open up a whole new avenue to my life, which I can just feel incredibly excited about.
Yeah, it's just an opportunity to be expressive in a different way, right?
I also hope I motivate people. You know, I think I've got a lot of eyes on me. I have a communication style that lands for certain amounts of people, and I feel like somebody's going to say, wait a minute, am I an artist too? And is going to fulfill their destiny of being an artist. I think what what social media did was allowed people to be personalities and experts that would have never been that. Influencer marketing, influencers is now a collection of people who are destined to be lawyers, but are now known for yoga. Accountants that are now known for Star Trek. And I think NFT infrastructure is going to allow somebody who is destined to be a carpenter actually now to be an artist. Somebody who's destined to be a sports agent now to be an artist. Somebody that was destined to be a stay-at-home dad now to be a artist. Somebody that was destined to be a police officer to now be a meaningful artist. The fact that art will now be practical to a generation of parents and encouraged instead of discouraged is going to be a very good thing for society, and I'm excited to see the birth of it.
It's fascinating. You know, it makes me think about, I was actually just talking to someone about this today, the idea that, you know, we're talking right now about art NFTs, but in my mind, I'm anticipating pretty much anything that is property. At some point, you could theoretically say, could that be tokenized?
Well, that's a foregone conclusion. To your point, I think my passion right now sit around creativity. But for example, every book by any author that's got any juice is going to be launched as an NFT. Like, I've got to rethink my entire thought process of signing another book deal. Mm-hmm. Why would I do that? I can launch as an NFT, make incredible dynamics, deliver the actual book on the back of the NFT, create incredible secondary market dynamics. I mean, the world Darren, this is a big fucking deal.
It is.
I'm gonna sell my.
I've been trying to tell people this for 2 years.
Well, you've been right. Good news. You know how you like being right? Good news. There you go. This is gonna change everything. Absolutely everything. I think what I would encourage everybody here who's listening to fall into something I said the other night, and I'm using it. I like it. Don't try to convince. Have conviction, and it's very different. You know, convincing people is fun, but exhausting and not required when you're this right. So like people like, Gary, convince me about NFT. This literally actually ironically happened today. Somebody said, convince me about this space. I'm like, I'm not going to. Here's how I'm gonna convince you. This NFT thing is gonna be one of the biggest technology shifts in your life. I'll see you in 3 years. I'm not gonna sit here and try to explain to you that you don't understand social currency, human behavior, why people wear logos on their clothes, what happens in a digitized world, why people will be curious, like rubbernecking and reality TV and social media, to know what people have bought and ledgered, that the provenance matters incredibly and always has in our society, that eliminating the middle that brings very little value is a good idea, and the internet's been doing it. Technology's been doing that for its entirety as a term. Like I'm not gonna do that for you. I don't need to do that for you. It's just gonna play out. Why did chiefs and Indians and cavemen paint their faces with colors and have skins that were like, this has been going on. This is a foregone conclusion. So here's my rant, and I'll see you in 3 years. I don't care if you buy an NFT. I just don't care.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of provenance, I think a really interesting element of that a lot of people don't recognize is, you know, say you look at this Top Shot thing, right? And you think about, okay, well, whose hands has this particular card been in?
So
right?
cool.
And you can look back and go, whoa, this was actually in LeBron James' wallet, for example.
Really matters. People don't understand. That's gonna be really cool. When you meet somebody in 13 years at an event, instead of going to Google or Instagram like many do now, I think people will go to public wallets and look at what they've done. And I'll be like, oh, Darren, you were fucking on this blah, blah, blah. Like, you know, people love to have street cred. They're like, I knew about Pantera first.
Like Vanilla Ice.
Yeah, exactly. Or like, I was early, like for me, I was early on Notorious B.I.G. But do I really have proof? I don't, but I could.
Sure.
I could.
You could.
You know, like where, you know, when someone's like, I was early on Nirvana. Were you? Like now you have, but now in 35 years, somebody who's early on something is likely gonna have some proof to it, because that entity, the band, the influencer, the person, the thing, is gonna have an NFT infrastructure that's gonna prove. Do you understand the level of clout, Darren, that somebody could have as being the first person to buy the first item that Pearl Jam put out in 1991?
If you could prove it, yeah.
Well, guess what? That's the
Right.
world we're about to go into.
That's right. Irrefutably.
Irrefutably. So I think provenance is going to be a currency that matters in an insane way. I think people are naive. I told people that online dating would be the standard in 2000. They laughed at me. I said that people would buy wine on the internet in 1995. They laughed at me. I told people that they would spend all their time on Facebook. They laughed at me. Playing mobile games, they laughed at me. Like, all I do is get laughed at. And that's when I know I'm onto something. And this one is one that's making a lot of people laugh. They're like, I'll just take a screenshot. What's the difference? I'm like, everything.
Well, I was talking fine art with Sasha Bailey. He's the founder of MyBabe. And he was talking about how he had experience with traditional fine art. For example, if you were to say, look at an Andy Warhol, and it was the real Andy Warhol, and then you had a fake sitting next to it. They are indistinguishable. You cannot tell the difference between them. You know, and that's a problem. So what do? They go by provenance. They go, okay, whose hands were, who had this piece? You know, where is the history of this piece? And again, that's where the blockchain is vastly superior as a solution.
It's not even close.
Right? Not only that, where are those Andy Warhols? They're in a vault. No one's even looking at the things.
Correct.
I go to the New York Met. I don't know if you saw that, but
Yep.
I posted about it. I go to the Met, and I go look at a painting, and I'm like, is this even the real painting? Or did they just put a replica here because they don't want the real one to get damaged?
Correct. And meanwhile, somebody changes their profile pic to a CryptoPunk, and you can go check if they're the actual owner of it. You could.
You can.
You could. And then you get into the monetization of the IP. Like you look at some of the NFT standards where you're allowed to monetize something you buy up to $100,000. Like there's so much neat stuff. It's just gonna be neat. That's like the word, like I've been using the word neat. Like I don't know if it brings me back to when I was-
It's a childish nostalgic thing, right?
It's neat. It's fucking neat.
Well, and that's why making the art for myself as well. A lot of the art I make literally makes me laugh as I'm making it.
Good.
You know, like there's a joy in it, and I'm hoping you have the same experience with your doodling.
I mean, are you kidding me?
There's joy in it, right?
I mean, look at Patient Pig. How can you, look at this.
That's right.
You know, like I couldn't be more excited to be a part of this. I am really happy that I've been able to bring a lot of awareness. I've had a lot of beautiful DMs and things like, you know, I have a big platform and I'm able to bring awareness to people, the Flamingo Project or, you know, Voicious or, you know, whatever it might be. Like, it's just really fun.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk barriers though. Let's talk problems.
Please.
You know, Ethereum, obviously, you know, if you're minting on Ethereum, like it's got some technological problems.
Clearly.
You know, it's too much success.
Yep. Gas is expensive.
Gas is terrible. You know, we had kind of a mini crypto winter in the art scene where, I don't know, you talked about that you've been following it for months, and it was just on fire in October, November. Come December, Ethereum prices kind of skyrocketed, and all of a sudden, people couldn't create. Or they could create, but they couldn't mint. They couldn't tokenize, unless they were upper echelon. You know, where do you see that going?
Too early for me to make a call that I would want to look back on and say, okay,
Right.
you were smart or you were an idiot. I just don't know. That's the honest truth. I know human dynamics. So what do I mean by that? I know that there's an incredible amount of people that are building on top of Ethereum, that the network is so vast, that the stakes are so collectively high, that people that are dramatically more technically skilled than I are tackling it at ferocious levels. Now, I do think that people are naive a little bit with L2 and all that. Like, I think there is some naivete because when you want it to happen, you know, I'm thinking a lot about the burning and wrapping of tokens. You know, like listen, I would never have bought CryptoPunks if I didn't know what wrapping was.
Right.
Because I would have been too scared. Like, you know, they're very different technologies, but there was a day where Yahoo was the only search engine.
Sure.
And then Google came along. And I sit here and say, well, there could be a different blockchain, like
Ask Jeeves.
Correct. So, I mean, look at how great Flow is. Roham, you know, learned a lot being on kitties and scalable issues and, you know, Flow, and there's tons of innovation going on this. So, Ethereum scaling issues scare me less than they did 6 months ago because I have enough belief that if it doesn't mean all the assets go to zero.
Right.
And I'm a person that doesn't have the skill set, nor, to be honest, the interest on how the concrete and steel is made. I like designing the room. Got it? So I try to stay educated enough that I can speak to the way I'm speaking to you, where I'm dangerous, right? I can be a little dangerous, but I'm not the person that's going to speak about the technical underpinnings at the level that so many others can. What I spend my passion and time and skill set on, dynamics on top of those things. Now, I don't want to get caught with my pants down, which is why I try to stay knowledgeable-ish, but to speak about scalability of Ethereum, that is above my pay grade.
I kind of anticipate, in my opinion, that we'll get to a point where there's a level of interoperability that, you know, perhaps these tokens are moving from one chain to another. I mean, that's obviously a technical challenge now.
I think that is something that is in the best interest of everyone, thus makes me think likely.
Well, on the flip side, you could say, well, maybe it's more like the Betamax VHS situation, where VHS dominated because it simply was the one that was more widely used, and you could make that argument for Ethereum.
I think you could, but the speed of technology advancements are so different today compared to what it would have taken for a third. Cool, but that was a one-on-one battle. If the speed and costs associated with innovating back then in that game might have led to something called PS9, which would have destroyed VHS.
Sure.
And I think that's how I look at Flow had the luxury of knowing what Ethereum was.
Right. Yeah. What do you think of the whole, there's these, curated scenes for galleries, and then there's the ones that are kind of wide open. Like, where do you find yourself drawn to the most?
Neither and both. To me, both will succeed of whomever wins. Right? So you will have meaningful players in both.
Okay.
And then I think you'll have underlining technology where people like myself and others can do it on their own domain and just have the underpinnings of the capabilities within it.
Let's bring it to your background a little bit here. What do you think it is about this? You talked about it a bit already, but you talked about your childhood. What is it about your childhood that really clicks with this, you think?
That's a great question. My mother's side of the family has a very heavy leaning towards storytelling. They're just like funny Russian uncles who get drunk and storytell. And I'm like, okay, that's something. Being an immigrant and learning how to speak English by watching Scooby-Doo, Batman, the Adam West stuff, and the Hulk, the movie stuff, the TV show, Dukes of Hazzard, like a lot of 70s and 80s IP taught me how to speak the language, and I think cemented my Americana. Being a merchant trader, I think this is just the modern stones and rubies and, like gold. I would have probably been a great character in the gold rush, and so DNA and circumstance of like, I do think the immigrant can't speak English. These are the things that taught me English, and they're all IP, probably has something to do with it. I can't really unwrap it. Sweet Pickles,
But there's a comfort you find in that, in a sense.
Yeah, for sure. And then I maintained it. Like, I loved garage selling my whole life and buying toys and books and mugs and t-shirts of IP. Happy Days, Mork and Mindy. Like, I just always gravitated to nostalgia, Americana, IP, that shit.
Yeah. Very interesting.
It is
Different question entirely. Totally kind of a bit of a shift here. I think a lot about how this will change the way economies work on a kind of a macro scale. Any thoughts on that in regards to,
big time.
This kind of changing the way we
I think I will become a central bank. I think humans will have economies built around them because of access and metadata.
How does that work in our current system without there being a huge conflict? Or is that inevitable?
I mean, if you're going super macro with me around like cryptocurrency and NFTs versus, sovereign nations,
Which
I
is
think
like,
it's
say, fiat money versus.
Well, I think it's a big deal.
Yeah.
I think that there's inevitable regulation that is overbearing, and it will depend on how big the movement is at the time to see what the counter reaction is. I mean, I think the stakes are high. If you believe that Bitcoin wins, then you believe in the massive lack of leverage of sovereign nations.
Or that they just rush in and they try to have their own little hash war going on.
They're going to do it. They're going to do it. I mean, Germany, I feel like, is my prediction to go first. Like, I think, they're gonna.
Why Germany in particular?
By the way, when I say complete intuitive wild guess of like, I always think about who's incentivized but big enough.
See, because I would lean towards, say, something like, say, Iran or something like that.
they already kind of have their own control if you think about it. If you think of Germany as a major player in Europe, where Europe is now kind of like a third player in the world behind the US and China, it's almost like they're incentivized to do a move to almost like re-energize, you know, because don't forget, that's the part of the world that was number one. And I always think there's some underlying tension when you lose your spot. I think America losing to China in that global leader over the next 100 years will be like an interesting underlying resentment, the way that London and Germany look at the US. And so I don't know, I've always had this weird feeling in my own game of chess in my head that if there was a place that would do this first and most meaningful, that was big enough to actually matter. So that's always been my hot guess.
Are they confident enough to fight it?
I don't know. I just know that, yeah, well that is a really good point. In reality, no. In passing a law that makes things illegal that would make our heads spin, yes.
Well, and that can cause harm. I don't know if it stops. I don't think it can be stopped.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. I think it's like alcohol. You can do prohibition, but be prepared for the ramifications.
And be prepared for some people to still consume alcohol. Yeah. Talk about your hopes. I mean, you didn't give a lot of detail there about your projects, but you know, what do you see? What are you hoping happening here over the next year with your experience? What are you hoping to see happen?
By far, my reaction to that question is the 13 to 27 relationships I make in this next year that mirror the ones I made in 2006, like the Kevin Roses and the MSGs and the Travis and the Sakas and Dave Morans and, you know, just these real friendships, like, you know, Lazarus and Belsky, like these real friendships. I think I'm going to make some of my best friends in my life over the next year.
That's awesome. I know for myself, you know, just growing this community, I've made some awesome friends that
This is going to be a year that I'm
Any last words you want to wrap up with? I know you're going to tell them. I'm guessing you're a pretty busy guy, so.
Yes, I definitely appreciate it. I could definitely, that I'm grateful, that I'm available, that I'm intellectually generous. I was so gifted with the ability to get mine that I'm a person that believes in like abundance. So if there's anything I can be a help to anybody, I think everyone can win. And to be thoughtful on the investing side. I do think people need to be very careful. There's going to be 1 trillion projects, and there's only so much demand. And right now, a lot of the demand is from people that are financially incentivized. They don't really care about it. They're going to buy this thing because they think in a week it's going to be this much. And that's okay. I don't judge that. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a capitalist, you know, in the good sense of the world, meaning I want it to be fair. That's what I love a lot about this. I think it's pure capitalism. Like there's it actually a game of who is good, not let's rig the game. And so
it's a meritocracy.
It's a meritocracy. That's a good I just would tell people like be thoughtful because when it crashes or goes down, you know, it'll hurt. It'll be fast. It'll be hard to liquidate. There's not enough underlying demand to carry what's going on, and so you have speculation at scale. Buy what you like, or really do homework on things you genuinely believe are going to work. For example, every great IP, Darren, that's about to come out, whether it's Star Wars or Star Trek or Alf or Smurfs or whatever, right? I'm going to look very carefully at how they build it. You know, because I can't just say, oh, the Pokemon thing's so frustrating. Pokemon, if it's sloppy and not thoughtful, the dynamics won't play out to make it a good quote-unquote investment.
Well, then you just have a
This is going to be a massive ICO moment, just so you know. This will be that the shitcoin like reality is there's going to be an ungodly amount of NFTs that sell for a lot in the first 3 months and go to very small places. So pay very close attention to who's behind it. For example, for me, what I'm gonna do is gonna be with me to the day I die, which gives me tremendous confidence in the economics around that ecosystem, back to economies around people. Unfortunately, I think a lot of people that have my leverage of awareness and audience, I think they're gonna go for the quick $3, $4, $5 million score. And I think that's gonna hurt them, and it's definitely gonna hurt their fans. And I caution people to be thoughtful as they continue to navigate, especially these next 24 months. But these next 24 years in NFT are gonna be remarkable.
Yeah, 100%. Hey, I really appreciate it. And I'm looking forward to your podcast. I hear you're doing it with someone else in my community. I don't want to give away too much about that yet, because I'm not sure. But, well, and I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. I mean, of all the things you could be doing with your time, why is it that, this is what you're doing? I'm curious.
I like people that are authentic to the thing that I'm excited about. There's gonna be a lot of fancy people who are gonna hit me, it's already happened. There's gonna be a lot of super famous, super wealthy, super leveraged, super strategic people. There's all the natural people that I'm friends with that are also in, and those are real relationships. But there's something important to me that if I go into someone's home, I want to, and the rules are take your shoes off, I want to take them off. Said that somewhere else the other day, and it kind of feels that way to me. I want real friendships, real relationships. I want to be in this community for the rest of my life, and the only way I know how to do that is to bring value. I know that in real life, that my appearance on your podcast for you gives you leverage to do more with your podcast, and I want that for you.
I appreciate that.
And the number one asset that I protect is time.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, being a $5,000 sponsor of your podcast is a hell of a lot less meaningful of like me knowing the truth than me allocating this time.
Right on.
And
yeah.
so that's
I'd be okay with that too.
You can have that combo too. Anyway, my friend, thank you for your time. I gotta run.
Right on.
Cheers.
Thank you very much.
Bye there. Thank you so
Take
much.
care.
I'll see you in the circles. I hope to spend real time in person as well.
Awesome. Hey,
Cheers.
Take care. Cheers.
Where do you live?
I live in Alberta, Canada.
Love it. Love it. Actually,
I love New York though. I had tickets booked. I had hotel booked. I had tickets for Hamilton booked. I was all ready with my wife to come out there for a week.
I'm gonna be going to a lot of conferences, so I'm sure we'll be seeing.
Oh man,
We'll talk
I
soon.
was crushed. But
cheers.
Right, take care. Thank you.
YouTube watcher, what's up? It's Gary V. First of all, thank you so much. I hope you're doing super well during these times. I also want to ask you, please subscribe, because my commitment and exploration of YouTube is about to explode. Stories, polls, more content, more engagement, more surprise and delight. This is the time to subscribe. I hope you consider it, and I hope I see you soon. I believe that the way you look up somebody on Instagram or you Google them now, in 7 years, you're gonna meet somebody in real life and you're gonna go look at their public wallet. You got your perspective. I just wanna be happy. Don't you wanna be happy?
Gary, welcome to the Nifty Show.
It's great to see you, Trav and Joel. It's a real pleasure. Thank you so much.
Are you eating nuts there?
Grapes.
Okay, so that's maybe going nuts. So, you know, you're a little late. I know you want to buy the Jets, but as you can see from the photo,
Pulled it up.
I bought them. Yeah, they're mine.
I didn't realize Garbage Pail Kids and Street Fighter could be so profitable.
It's amazing what NFTs will do. Well, you're about to find out, because you are ready to launch your first NFT collection that you have called V-Friends. Tell us about them.
10,255 tokens. A little head nod to CryptoPunks in some way, but a little different number. When, you know, in 2016, when did Ethereum come out? Like 16, an incredible friend of mine by the name of Aaron Battalion, who was the CTO of Living Social, Groupon's biggest competitor at the time, has gone on to become a big, Silicon Valley technologist, VC, brilliant guy, tech boy. We were sitting in a jam session at South by and really broke down Ethereum for me, because the year before, that whole crew that would get together, we all bought Bitcoin. And so, you're starting to get into that stuff. You're starting to learn it. And so 17 was when I really was looking at ETH and then, other blockchain stuff, hearing about. And then, and basically, when I understood that you could put contracts on, that was fascinating to me, right? Like, you can put a lease on it, contracts, fine. Fast forward to, you've hit me up, Joe. We have a great relationship for our Web 2.0 days, and I'm aware of Wax and Ethereum and seeing stuff. I invested in a company called Roll in Vayner RC several years ago for individual coins, personal brand. You can imagine with all this stuff. And then the garage sailing and the collectible, you can imagine, but it's all floating in ETH or out there for me as I'm, navigating my life. Very, very similar for me to Web 2.0 or social media, right? Watched Friendster, watched MySpace, doing my wine thing, and I'm like, this thing feels different, right? And these blogs, waxy.org and Jason Kotke and Anil Dash, and this TechCrunch thing, Slashdot, and I'm like, there's something brewing. And for me, I'm, a pop culture retailer businessman. So for me, I'm always thinking when's it gonna be ready for prime time? Even sports cards, a year I looked at, and that was something I very much understood. It was okay, now I'll talk, because
and they've come back in a big way. Sport cards have just blown up.
So for me, it was really this winter when April through September was incredible hardcore navigation of a 1,000-person company, a lot of fear with COVID, layoffs, then hiring, gnarly kind of 15-hour-a-day life, just trying to make sure everyone's healthy and safe and the business is okay. And, you kind of almost need a distraction when you get out of an 8-month, when you're a captain, it's an 8-month storm and you finally get to calmer waters, you're let me go get a beer. And and that beer for me was NFTs. I was I need some, let me, this has been going on. Let me dig in here a little bit deeper. And that thing that happens in my life where I'm it's 11:45 p.m. It's not 6:30, it's not 2:30. This is getting close. Let me get my shit together, because I like being involved in consumer stuff. I like when things are ready, but I also don't want to say shit. And I also want, this is the weirdest one, because the last two things, Web 1, Web 2, for me, nobody knew who the fuck I was. I had no audience, nothing. So in general, I like doing homework. This was even more dangerous, and I'll continue to do that on podcasts like this. I'm look, I don't know what that means, or I'm not there yet, or, all these things that everybody has to do when they go through their journey. There's so many new chains, there's so much going on. I decided to do VeFriends on Ethereum, so there's all those dynamics of level 2 and gas and all the things that people take shots at Ethereum for, which I'm empathetic and I understand why. There's, incredibly cool stuff going on other chains. I want to understand it all. Immutable this for level 2, Wax with you, Joel, what you guys are doing, Polkadot, Solana, Cardano, you're just kind of looking at it all. For me though, much like Web 1 and Web 2, I didn't want to learn Ruby on Rails, right? I didn't want to learn how Amazon services worked. And going way back, I wasn't learning how to code an ASP for Wine Library's first site. I didn't care how we had I wanted to be dangerous enough so I wasn't an idiot. But, for me, this is a very interesting time, because with this, there's almost a requirement to get a little bit deeper. just a hair. And there's also money being exchanged in a very different way. That first time you connect a MetaMask and you buy something and that 40-second delay happens, I'm like, wait a minute, where I'm petrified. One of the biggest things I'm going to do this, like the 24 hours before my launch here, is probably make 800 videos and go live and be like, okay, I'm aware that some of you are going to buy something for the first time. Let me tell you exactly the fear you're going to have for 49 seconds. So just trying to get my shit together, and also trying to, jumping into different discords, reading, I get so passionate that I always worry that my excitement is confused with thinking I know. So I've been very aggressive with my words of like, I'm in my journey. I'll talk about, when I get comfortable with something, I'll talk about it. I understand why people buy things. Let's start there. I may not understand every single T&I on underlining tech, but I'm going to listen and try to at least have something I can hang with. But I definitely understand why people buy things and how. I understand how markets get built and what becomes of them. And that's why I've been telling people that 99% of the projects may not end up being a great investment, because I understand supply and demand. But it's an incredible time to be alive. I can't believe we're here, right? Like, it's like, after going through Web 2.0, I didn't know how long, if ever, would it be before my juices in my body felt like, oh, I want to stay up at all hours of night and learn and meet people and all, and this one's so fun, right? Like, everybody I'm like following or DMing with or Discording with, they've got their fucking favorite NFT as their avatar. The Metaverse is brewing. All this stuff is going on. And for me, what a lot of people don't know is 2 years ago, I got very far along the path of creating toys that were called workplace warriors. And what Joe, you know this about me. I know you know this about me. I do read a lot, all my comments. Not like I did in 207 to 211. I have way less time, but I read a lot. And, I get a lot, because of the way I communicate and what I talk about, a lot of people that are like, hey, thanks for the video. I just watched your video at lunch. My boss is such a dick. It made me feel better, or this and that. And like, to the point where I was like, wait a minute, this is gonna be cool. I like business, so that's me. But I also love collecting, that's me. And I love having a selfless and selfish thing, right? The whole like, right, it works. And I was like, you know what? I think I'm gonna do a toy. Nice little $30 toy. This is my shit. This is what I like. People put an empathetic elephant on their fucking, on their desk. And when their boss is a dick and they look at it, they'll think of me that says, fuck you. And look, I was like, this is going to really be good. So I really went down that path heavily. Molding, design, fucking, and then, and then got busy, and then boom, COVID. It was one of those things where I'll address this in Q1.
And there's so much to do when you're creating a thing like that, the supply chain and all these things you gotta deal with, all this physical shit.
So you nailed it. You knew exactly where I was going. So now I'm deep. I'm buying some punks. I'm learning. I'm looking at all the superhero cool shit you're doing, Joel. I'm just looking. I'm looking. I'm like, wait a minute. Fuck, I'm gonna be able to do my thing on this. Because what happened with me is what happened with Wine Library TV. I'm like, oh shit, the internet's changing. The way I sell wine for my dad is changing. What do I do? Oh, this YouTube thing's gonna be the biggest of them all. I know about wine. Like, it was so left field. I mean, you probably remember, Julie, it was so left field. Everything was tech. Dignation, Zay Frank, it was all tech. And then this guy in New Jersey with a wine store starts this show, and it worked. And I don't know how to do things when I think the world's changing without throwing myself into it.
Right. You play with the toys. That's how you learn.
With the toys. So I'm gonna make my own. I'm gonna learn a ton of shit. And guess what? I have. And the Web3 stuff is really intense and really fun, and I'm learning and I'm enjoying it, and I'm just so happy to be a part of the community, and and thank you for having me on the show.
It's such a friendly community. One thing I've noticed about the NFT space is like, it seems like everyone's sort of uplifting each other, right? They're cheering each other on.
Outside of the different chains, a little bit of that gets a little, kind of thing. And outside of like cryptocurrencies versus NFTs, yeah, you're seeing incredible behavior and rooting for, listen, there's a lot of money. There's too much money going on. I think that is probably the thing I'm most worried about. With social, you were actually just building brand and relationship and reputation, which kind of like helped. I think it's going to be a little weird here, Trav. Unfortunately, like there's too much money being exchanged. Like I've already seen it from a couple of people like DM me. They're like, "Oh, are you upset that other things launched right before your thing?" I'm like, no way. First of all, the things they were referencing were from OGs, and I was like, who am I to? Second of all, one of the things I'll tell anybody who's listening, this is just more macro. Anytime you think someone's taking something out of you, you are completely confused about how the world actually works. The world is fundamentally abundant. Like there's plenty of room to buy punks and to buy, to buy cardboard heroes and to buy. By the way, this is what's going on with the art world and the collectible world. All my sports card friends are like, what the fuck? Why are you focus on this? Like, you put in so much into the sports cards. I'm like, both. I'm like, they're gonna help each other. Topps' project on wax is gonna help its cardboard and vice versa. I think the world is, if you do good shit, it will be just okay. Don't blame somebody else's success for your lack of execution.
Absolutely. So you're going all in. We did, I knew when you started drawing these characters, you were going somewhere with it. I said, we got to get on, we got to talk about it. I brought you up to speed on NFTs with my knowledge. I told you about wax. You decided to go with Ethereum. You got to do what you got to do. But let's talk about what you actually are doing here, because these VeeFriends, these are not just picture NFTs that Gary has drawn. You have tapped into one of what we think is the key use cases for NFTs, in that each one is tied to something real world.
Correct. To me, where I was starting this, thank you for bringing me back, Joe. You've always been good at that. I'm throwing a massive conference called VCon, where every one of these tokens, so this is actually, since we're looking at it, this is how it breaks down. There's 10,255 tokens, 9,400 of them, as you can see, are admission tokens. They come in different rarities, as you can see. And those are, to your point, if you scroll up, Joe, if you don't mind, if you click VCon at the tippy top, just for the visual. Yeah, so what's interesting about this, if you scroll down, so VCon is a conference I'm throwing. Actually, can you go to vcon.co? I don't know if
I can do amazing things.
Yeah,
because I have the internet. I can't type though, because I have the internet at my, no, that is not it. Oh, VCom. I got myself involved there. Yep. That's it.
You were bragging on it a little too early. You're like, oh yeah, I can do all the, whoops.
Yeah, except go anywhere.
So every token, all 10,255 are going to be invited to VCon. That's how you get in. To me, this is you'll see so many inspirations in my past. South by Southwest, Web Summit, Tech Country Disrupt, right? Like, all the things that shaped me. I want to throw that conference with a little bit of music and entertainment. And actually, believe it or not, it's basically all those things I mentioned with Coachella and Rolling Loud with summer camp. So one of the things I'm very excited about, you'll see it as we go back to VCon, it's some of the tokens I did are called competition tokens, which are like tokens to have one-on-one access to play me in ping pong and in checkers and all this other stuff. And you can go back to scroll up, because this is the smaller one. Why don't you go meet the friends? Yep. So if you scroll down, right? So there's access tokens. So let's go back. 9,400 to the conference. 555 called gift goats. You buy this token, you connect your wallet and put your address, and stick with me here, Trav. 6 times a year, minimally.
6.
Over 3 years, because all these tokens are 3-year things, off-chain tokens. 6 times a year, I send you surprise and delight gifts. Thank you, Joel. So nice. As you can imagine, what's really cool about this is, once I see what everybody pays for it, I take a step back and I'm starting to reverse engineer. For example, if the first gift I send is more than people paid for the goddamn token, shit's gonna get really weird. And this was important to me for a reason. If this just was my doodles, I'd have no control after the fact, unless I do what I'm up to, which is I'm gonna spend the rest of my life building this intellectual property. So I'm gonna try to do cartoons and backpacks and toys and movies and streetwear brands. So I'm gonna really, this is probably where my career is going. This is my now intellectual property. This is my Zelda. This is my Pokemon. This is my Scooby-Doo. And I'm gonna see how far I can take it. And I think I'm very good at building brand. And so that's the tokens. And then there's 300 access tokens, which I think, it's funny. I went back and forth on doing this because I didn't want it really to be about me and my time. So much of this is about building up characters that represent the things I talk about so that I'm not the front man of my passions. But I did want to send a blueprint. As the project was evolving, I was noticing a lot more people coming out that had audiences and doing very bullshit projects that I thought were money grabs. And I thought a lot of people were going to lose a lot of money and then hurt the space. So I said, you know what? I'm going to put a blueprint of what I think a lot of people are missing in this project. And that's what I think with access tokens. So with access tokens, you buy the token, you get the collectible, you still get, in addition, the conference. But if you scroll down, Joel, in addition to this being a ticket to the conference, for example, there's 125 Hangout Hawks. All 125 people there are part of a virtual Hangout group with me that gets together 5 times a year for 45 minutes, Q&A, just with me. Then you see the in-person ones, Dinner Deer, Lunch Ladybug. Those are literally having dinner together. And what I'm excited about is I'm gonna work my tail off that if somebody buys Dinner Deer, which is, not gonna be inexpensive, but they're still gonna own the next 2 years' rights to that ticket. So as you can imagine, they may be able to have dinner with me, and then if things go well, have an asset where they'll be able to make a decision if they want to come back next year or put it up. So it was important for me to innovate on the multi-year aspect. And then you get into the one-on-one access. Again, 85 of them are virtual, FaceTime characters. So FaceTime Fox is a 5-minute FaceTime with me, again, multi-year thing. And then you get into the crazy one-on-ones. Garage sailing Yale, literally go garage sailing for 4 hours on that episode of Trash Talk. Podcast Panther, I think, is a great one. You buy that token, I become a 45-minute guest on your podcast. So I can see a lot of people seeing that as value. Workout Wolf, literally work out with me and my trainer. Gone Fishing Fish, literally a 3-hour, I think, fishing trip with me. I mean, that's some quality time. Wine shopping spree woodchuck, which is really exciting.
What's the Keynote Koala? Do they get to keynote with you or what?
Keynote Koala is an unlimited token to every public keynote I give in the world, where you get a VIP ticket and green room access meet and greet prior to it.
Nice.
So what I'm hoping there for, Joel, is that somebody decides to treat me like the Grateful Dead, and literally I see them at every city in the world.
Vayner heads.
These kind of remind me of Sweet Pickles back in the day. I remember these
remember? Yes.
Yeah, I remember these. They all have they all have a little good, feel-good story behind them.
They broke it. Actually, I looked at it because I was like, wait a minute. Somebody said it to me when I was doing it. I was like, shit, let me look at it. They had a little bit of a mix. This is a little more positive. So, listen, there's also, if you keep scrolling down, something I'm really proud of. The competition ones here. Maybe my favorite one, Uno Unicorn. That's literally a 4-person Uno game. 3 people will buy that token. We're gonna have a 4-person Uno, so I can draw 4.
Shouldn't it just be called a Unocorn? I'm just thinking.
On some real shit, I'm devastated right now.
Yeah.
Right now, right this second, I'm devastated. That is so much better. God damn it. Look, on the flip side, I think I did a good job with the bowling boa. Turning a pin into a snake, I thought that was creative.
That's pretty creative.
Thank you, sir. Finding an animal that rhymes with ping pong was tough, but there is a kalong bat out there, thank God. So the ping pong kalong. And then if you scroll down, Joel, 5 scholarship access. These are people who are just going to submit. I'm going to give them 5 45-minute sessions with me, 30 hours with VaynerX senior executives, and a paid internship to any VaynerX company. On the 10% royalties on the secondary transactions, I'm keeping 9. I'm giving 1% to 5 charities I pick each year. So a lot of fun dynamics, real fun, big ambitious project. Fucking going for it.
Yeah, I think this is really cool. As we've talked about this, Joel and I, over the this is NFTs and social tokens. Really, I think the combination between the two give access to your favorite content creators in a whole new way, right?
100%.
And you're taking that shit to the next level with these NFTs being specific interactions, which nobody's done. I've not seen anybody do specific interactions. This equals that, and you get to do this with me. A lot of people are just, here's a cool collectible and enjoy it and have fun. You're actually diving in, and you've built a strategy and you set a blueprint around developing access to Gary Vee and inspiring people on an ongoing basis. I think it's brilliant.
Thank you. And then for me, what's really exciting, Trav, is I'm petrified. Like, I find people so fascinating. People are like, oh, short-term thing. I'm like, are you out of your mind? If this fails, I'm dead. Like, I'm spending the rest of my fucking life trying to make some of these characters mean something. Like, why do I go to garage sales and buy Thundercats? Because it eventually meant something, and thus that meant, like, it was worth something versus another piece of plastic at a garage sale from something that nobody's ever heard of, right? Why is it Garbage Pail Kids and Street Fighter and other cool things on wax, right? Like, because those meant something. Like, now, if you notice, I created something that had a lot of real life value in the first 3 years. That gives me time to turn the tokens and the art into meaningful collectible assets. I go and land a Netflix cartoon deal for 4 of these characters in a series. We're off to the races if that series hits.
This is the pathway to the Jets. This is it right here.
I think so.
Yeah. Well, a couple things. First of all, you're going to kill it. Or I should more aptly say, you're going to crush it. These are going to sell out so ridiculously fast. Your head is going to swim. It's going to go, what the hell just happened? I have no question. We see a lot of these launches, and we know which properties, are going to resonate and which are not. We usually call them pretty good. Sometimes we miss. I'm not going to miss with this one, and I'm not blowing smoke up your ass. It's going to sell out super fast, so you don't have to be nervous about it. Here's the thing. You're talking about this is the next part of your life. It's not just the brand. You are putting yourself so deeply into delivering after this purchase that, yes, it literally is the next part of your life. You're going to be busy as hell.
You know who was the happiest? D-Rock and my video creative team. They're so pumped. Because they're like, oh, this is fucking gold. Like, we can finally make a vlog. You're so boring. Like, you work, you're set, like, fine, but how many episodes of Daily V or Weekly V can people watch of you being in meetings for 16 hours? Like, this is gonna be funny. Like, you're gonna, they also know me. When I lose an Uno on some reverse card and then a draw 4, I'm gonna be pissed and it's gonna be funny. It's funny. The other part of this, Joe, is, and I think, again, this is what's so fun to talk to you guys, because we come from a time where we shared a lot of stages and back rooms, and I'm so uniquely built for the way I built this because I genuinely love people. Like, to me, I'm excited about meeting Barry from Indiana in a ping pong game or having dinner with Sarah and Rick and John. Like, I mean, this is like, I'm humbled by it. I enjoy it. I think a lot of people who are lucky enough to have big audiences actually don't like it. They're a little more introverted, and I understand that. And maybe they'll do very different versions of this, or maybe just the conference. Or maybe just, a hard good that comes along with it. For me, there is nothing that is more valuable than someone's time and the access to their brain, their heart, and I'm hoping it inspires people. I think, I want to buy, and I built this with the intent of, like, some of the players that play behind you, sir. Like, I want to throw the football with Zach Wilson, my new quarterback. I'll pay for that shit, especially if I own the token after it. Like, I'm built it. So I'm hoping, cook. Think about it. Famous chefs, authors. It's not just about influencers and celebrities. If somebody's the foremost expert of beekeeping, and she puts out 50 tokens, NFTs, and 5 of them are the gold honey ones, and those come with a 2-hour session with her of like really doing it, that's meaningful. If I could do it with if a music producer put this out and I want to be a music producer and I get 3 hours in studio with him or her, I mean, this is really meaningful. And I think the other thing you have to think about, one thing I did very late, so I didn't know as